I mean, I don't. So, what I'll do. Good, how are you? Good. Good. How's it going? Pretty good. That's good. Thanks for being in the articles and they're in the town news. Nothing, so she didn't have bacon. I called her, she's coming. Oh, she's good. You ever see Sarah? Oh, right now. Oh, that's
Not a lot, but sometimes it's. It's usually, often she invites us over for like Thanksgiving or holidays. Sometimes my son's here and sometimes not. Because they still stay pretty close. But my son lives in Rochester, so he's not here. But they're still in contact.
Right, right.
And they still consider.
Three of us are here.
Huh?
So three of us are here. Yeah, what's up?
Have we heard from them?
I haven't heard anything to say that he wasn't gonna come.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to be reminded it's at 5 and not at 6.
Well, I think we did get a reminder a
From-
couple days ago.
Well, sure.
It was too early. I don't think I have his number.
I do. Pull my phone out. Right here.
Maybe not.
Let's see.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, household has in his voice. He signed up for this weekend.
Would you like to know what his number is?
Not right now. I'll get it. I'll put it in when I get home. I know I've got it.
Houses between the houses, is that true? City, I guess.
You coming? Okay, supposed to be here by now, but. Okay. En route. I should silence this creature so I don't have it interrupting me in the course of the meeting.
So who's the left hand?
Anyways, and that was.
That's Kate Shank's booth is the youth
But they had it right.
Oh, it's Ruth.
no, it's Kate.
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 Okay. I can't see that. And
Really?
who's right below her?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Oh, because they were. having-
Confirm your speaking language. Well, yes, it's English.
Oh, that's what it is.
Today's 21st.
So, you know, we have Marnie here, Kate here, and Jamie.
Well, yeah.
Sorrentino is coming, but he gets out of work at 5, so probably finish it. I thought we could deal with Mary Ann with the ponds in the meantime.
Yeah.
Which would be now, of course.
Okay. Is Laura coming?
I think so, but maybe not right away.
Okay.
You've been working on this stuff all day,
Yeah.
as have I. So what do I do with this agenda for this meeting? Right here. Yeah, pretty-
Well, I mean, it's a little bit.
Ready?
Yep.
Here. So we asked Mary Ann to attend. She's here. Oh, there it is.
Gary,
Say again.
hello,
Steve.
Gary.
Talking to me, Captain?
Should be able to.
Has your daughter deployed to Korea yet?
Can you hear us okay?
I can.
Okay, good.
You're coming through clearly, but very softly.
Yes.
Well, there wasn't much to say till now.
No, it's a general problem with your microphone. Its sensitivity, its gain is low.
Sounds fine on our side.
All other participants in the meeting come through loud and clear compared to you.
But we're all sharing the same microphone. That's tad bizarre.
No, I meant other Zoom participants. If someone
Oh,
speaks over Zoom, they're much louder than you are because your microphone is not very its gain is not very high.
I don't know how to do it differentially.
That's fine.
Anyway, here we are. That's Charlie, I think, right? Yeah.
No, it's Teresa. I think it's Charlie.
I think, yeah, it is. He is. Did you hurt yourself?
No, it's the usual thing.
Poking for blood?
Huh?
Poking for blood?
No, I don't have to put blood because my capillaries are too close to the skin. So all I have to do is go like that.
Really?
Yeah. She is. How many trees?
A bunch.
A bunch.
Oh, Jack and I both said, here's a couple of pieces. Yep, same thing, I just had. And then we have lots of school.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you, John. I got a date on that too.
Yeah, yeah.
So we know.
Which version we're working?
Yeah, which version.
Literally hot off the press.
Yeah, we don't have time to look at it ahead of time. I don't, did a lot of notes here, I know only just match.
I have the same issue, but
I'm sorry, what's that?
I got a shitload of notes to check on. If I had this, I could have checked first.
Oh. No, I.
so let's begin this process, shall we?
Okay.
Since Mary Ann is here. At our request. What questions do you have of Mary Ann regarding the pond?
Greg's, Greg. So what are we doing?
Pond.
Pond.
Which, if you want to look at the budget, is where is it? It's 7150.
What's that?
7150. Is it what for the budget? Here he is.
7150.
There he is.
I'm here, barely, but
Yeah,
I'm here.
we were just beginning
You need a bite? Yeah,
No, I just.
with the
I
pond,
just had some candy bars.
starting with the pond.
good stuff.
I'm joking.
Can't
Serious,
go
I'm
home,
joking.
they're board meeting.
When I'm done.
Well, we can go home after that.
I can't hear you
We can go home after that.
after the board meeting.
Yeah. So Marianne is here for the pond program to address the questions we might have about the pond budget.
She's doing the same thing I'm doing. Can you speak louder? I can't hear you either.
Well, yeah, for this, anybody's gonna have to pull up the chair so that you're within range of this microphone.
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
This mic right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have a soft voice.
so do I evidently.
So I don't really know everybody here. I know Pat, Joel,
Leslie.
Leslie. Yeah, we met, yeah.
I'm Paul.
Catherine.
Kathy, oh, yeah.
So there were some questions about whether this is a worthwhile program to fund. We asked Marianne to come in order to, basically explain what's worthwhile about it. So,
I mean, the concern had to do with the, mainly the setting, and the poop and the geese and that's, I think what he's referring to as to whether or not it's worth it. I mean,
well, that
is
in
it too,
attendance.
is there some, maybe something we can do?
Well,
about it?
we did something about that. The town, we asked the town to put sand down.
Uh-huh.
And we tried that a long time ago and it didn't work, but the town, and they weren't supposed to, officially work on the pond and put
Okay, we
sand
didn't hear
down,
what
so
you
that's,
said. Yeah.
the town guy, oh, I see. what you- Anyway, they weren't supposed to officially do it, but they did a great job and they laid layer after layer of sand. So it packed really good. So they spent like 4 hours on it. And, so the sand did not go into the water like it did in the
In
past.
the past.
And the geese don't seem to like the sand. So we haven't had goose poop most of the summer after the sand was put down.
Wow.
So, and it didn't cost, I don't know how they charged the sand.
They didn't, how we did it out of the.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, I think the pond is a beautiful place. And so many people use it. There's picnickers, kayakers, bird people. I mean, it's, and the people the guys who were building the Norbut, they came there and they still do there, come every day for lunch and picnic there. So there were people there and it's worthwhile having a lifeguard, even though there's not a whole ton of swimmers all the time, but, because he's a caretaker, he takes care of the garbage on the area. He cleans up, if there is any poop on the beach, he would clean it up, but he didn't have to this year, except in the beginning. And, he also cleans the bathrooms. So the place has been really, and even though there was a lot of lawn mowing this summer, it was really nice. It was really picked up a great area this summer, so we were lucky to have a lifeguard. He's a neighborhood boy. So, I was really happy with the whole program this year.
Having somebody who lives in the neighborhood be the lifeguard, does that also attract friends in the? I mean, not so
Not
much.
so much, not necessarily, yeah, and,
Friends, you know, I just would think if it was somebody
Oh, that they
local,
knew they
that
come.
her friends
How's the
would be.
quality of the water for swimming?
well, we do test the water every week, and it's, doesn't have any E. coli, not much, yes, it's under the limits. Sometimes the water is, mucky, a little
Murky.
seaweed, yes. But if more people swim there, it does improve, and if it rains every so often, it is okay quality. So I'm not saying it's perfect, it's a pond,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth having the lifeguard there. So,
I think it's useful to note, and we should probably say it that way, that it's not just a lifeguard position. That it's also maintenance or something, because otherwise it looks like it's only involves swimming, but it doesn't.
right,
And
yeah,
even the title would be helpful if it didn't say that.
yeah, I don't know, but he's gotta have it, special,
Oh, yeah, no, it
Requirement.
doesn't change what he
Right.
needs to have.
Right.
It only changes how we write it.
oh, okay, okay. Well,
Marnie had a question. Or a
Mhm.
comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Just as a
If you-
member,
To be heard, you need to be closer to the microphone. You don't have to sit down, but you have to be somewhere near.
Well, just as a member of the public and, someone who has had a long history with Danby, I think that the importance of this program to the concept of Danby community, which is what I think we're all trying to build, I would advise against making any, penny wise and pound foolish decisions in this regard.
Mhm.
I think that this is a real, before the meeting, Mary Ann and I were talking a little bit more about trying to coordinate with our cooperative extension programming that does occur at Jennings Pond, has been very successful at Jennings Pond. And, it's an important resource and, I think, the public would want to respond to any concerns that are, legitimate concerns before you would make any kind of budget cuts.
Can I just ask a question about is there any chance of trying to drag chains through the water where they swim, in that area to try to cut? No.
We're talking about pulling pondweed out, right?
yeah, we have this thing called.
Because I know we've done, it's been done on the lake.
Oh,
There was
I've-
like that kind of weed growth that they,
oh, like the dredging kind of thing?
it's not dredging, I think they just drag.
It's more like
boat.
weeding, right?
Yeah, it just kind of knocks them down and.
Well, we do that in a swim area.
Right.
We have a weed eater thing that you throw in and it pulls the weeds. So that's what mostly my son and the lifeguard were doing, trying to get the weeds out.
Mhm.
My son, who was the assistant director kind of thing. And
How deep does it get in the swimming area?
I think it's 12 feet.
Oh, 12 feet, so that, they can't get all the way up there then.
No.
And the weeds don't grow in the deeper water, do they?
Yes, they grow mostly. I think. So, yeah, sorry to say, but yeah, and we try to keep, and then the more swimming. We originally had the swim area kind of confined this year because I thought the weeds on the side near the beach were growing high and we couldn't really cut them. I wish you were saying that maybe the parks can do that, cut those weeds. They're
Well, I
like
mean, it's,
tough weeds.
yeah, maintenance is something that we could talk to them about.
Yeah.
Jim Brophy seemed
Yeah.
willing.
Anyway, so he, and I thought the health inspector would mind, we had these weeds coming with the lines, but he didn't, so we widened the swim area and dredged the outside with the inside of the swim
Right.
lines with the weed eater as best we could.
Yeah.
Not perfect. Sorry to say.
I hate to do
Yeah.
this one, but I have grandsons and they went down there. They weren't really that happy swimming there
Oh.
because of the weeds.
Mhm.
But it might have been the goose poop too, though.
So when did they come? This summer?
It was last summer, not this summer. I don't
Well, there
think.
was no lifeguard there last summer.
Ah,
Yeah. there's-
Basically didn't run the program last year because you couldn't get a lifeguard.
Exactly,
oh, I see. So maybe that's what, changed things.
yeah. I think it's worth it.
Oh.
And also for the neighborhood, I've lived there, since 1980. And there used to be like a drug problem. If the pond is closed, there used to be drug drop offs there. And, so that's why we started a neighborhood, I didn't exactly, I would just help, a neighborhood watch,
Mhm.
yeah. So that helped, but still, when the pond is closed, it's a dead end place, so it's
Yep.
easy to drop them near the bathrooms and bring pick it up. So that's why I like to see the pond open as much as possible, because it really helps. And the neighborhood is really great, I love it there. And, so,
I think it's important to realize it's not just simply pond for swimming.
right.
It's an area that picnics, I know the neighborhood has had a pie contest there several years.
Oh,
ago.
yes, yeah. Yeah, so,
You always win that one, right?
huh,
You always win that one, right?
me?
Yeah.
But it's fun, it's nice. Yeah. Yeah, the Baltimore Road Group,
Yes, yes.
and there's a lot of fishing.
Yeah. So what are the prospects for having the lifeguard next year? You're supposed to have more than one, right? Or ideally have
Well,
more than one?
We can get away with having one because it's such a small area. So
Mhm.
the health department, I would talk to the state parks, but we're really regulated by the health department. So we have to follow their regulations. Since our area is, small enough, one lifeguard suffices, and the reason we didn't have him last year was because he was not old enough. He was
To be
16 this year.
The lifeguard.
The lifeguard,
Yes.
our neighborhood lifeguard. So I'm hoping he comes back. He wasn't all too enthusiastic, but his mother and his sister assured me. he would. So we'll see. Yeah, his sister was one of the lifeguards in the past. She was there.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Did you tell him that if we remain a living wage employer, he'll be getting 24.64 next year?
What? Wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he'll be impressed by that. He was really happy with the salary.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
you're welcome. Anything else?
Anyway,
Okay.
well, good.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I will. Have a good day. Thank you.
And I hope that Jamie would be here by now, but he's not.
Yes, you walked right in.
Oh, I didn't walk by, didn't, he'd be right behind Pat and he didn't see him coming. Right, so great. So the next, and major focus is on the youth commission's budget. Which is on the next page. I mean, this was confusing. But I think we have it worked out.
Lost the Zoom.
I spoke with Laura earlier today and gave her some of the same information that you shared with me, Jamie, yesterday.
Joel, you might want to put you might want to unmute yourself while we figure this out.
Oh, what happened?
I don't know, something just happened. Maybe just unmute so people
Yeah.
online can hear you. Let's figure this out.
Suddenly disappeared.
Is it on? Let's try to.
Well, it was, what happened?
Does this Zoom thing have to be plugged in?
Sorry.
Powering off, whoops.
Oh, back on.
For what it's worth, you're coming
Mine.
through clearly and everything's clear in Zoom land.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can hear you.
Well, that's interesting. So this is working.
That's just the monitor's not working. So I'll just fumble with it.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Does it work without the computer? Is the computer off?
No, the computer's on. I would say just, if you want to just keep going, I'll.
Yeah, see if we can figure out what's going on.
Okay.
No signal, is it on?
Is it working? Moving some of the wires.
I know,
Moving
stuff.
Wires up and down, could have pulled something.
Anyway. I'm glad to hear that you all in Zoom land can hear, even though you can't see.
We can see as well.
Can you
Zoom land
see?
see,
Yeah, you're coming through fine.
Okay, so it's just the monitor here that isn't working
All right.
for whatever reason.
Think about it.
Okay,
That's all right.
so, the bottom line here on the youth commission budget is,
I don't want to mess with it.
last year's budget total, which includes all of the appropriations for the Danby Youth Commission, including the scholarships and the $250 for stuff, came to 30,507, which is what is in our budget from last year. The request for this year was confusingly conveyed. But it actually amounted to $32,972, including the $1,000 thing, a $2,465 increase, which is about 8% year over year.
So what's the total you have for?
Well, in the revised budget, you've got it in as an option 2 amount. So there's 2 options. One is to go with what the Youth Commission voted on, which was before they heard that the county is looking favorably on, the legislature is looking favorably on an over target request to provide more opportunities for youths to be employed. So it's for more money for the youth employment part of the budget. And if we were to match their increased willingness to fund that, it's a 50-50 match. They put it in, but we have to match it. We could, instead of funding 3.5 youths, which is what we're currently doing, we could fund 5 youths, which would require increasing the budget though to $34,550, which would be a $4,043 increase year over year, which is about 13%. So that's the sort of big picture. There's a whole bunch of in-between stuff that's kind of confusing, but.
That's all correct. Thank you. Joel and I spoke last night to clarify all that because it was a little confusing at first.
And Kate is here to give us more, of the detail. If you'd like to see it, she has in fact a PowerPoint, which of course you can't see now, unless you want to look at my little screen.
So they can hear us, but you just can't see what.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Kate, it's just that the monitor for some reason
Well,
doesn't seem to be
probably
working.
if I turn, they can see it, you can.
Yeah, and then share, and I can share this one.
I have to get on. Did you?
Let's see, somebody's trying to get in.
That would be me, I believe.
Well, of course, that computer's in control, and I can't see what it sees. But Mariah's.
I let Catherine in. I let Catherine in.
Okay, great.
Because
Thanks.
co-host you would see.
Thanks. In a second, I'll hit this
I
up.
can make this bigger.
Okay, what we're doing with other stuff.
Gotcha. Oh,
Maybe.
I'm not joining with computer audio, but that.
No, that's right.
I know, but it won't get rid of that.
Oh, you mean you can't close that window?
Right, that's why I can't get the whole window open. Let me see. Let me see if that's.
Okay, welcome. Nice, it's nice to have you here, even though you're in
Sure.
Rochester.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, I'm at a conference. I'm sorry. I'm in a hotel room, so I'm glad to hear you can see me. Someone needs to let me share my screen. So I'll pull up the PowerPoint to sort of walk you through the two options and then try to answer any questions that you might have.
And Mariah, can you enable that?
I'm working on it. Hold on. No, it's not an option.
Do you have the option of reclaiming host?
Oh, you are.
Um,
If you look at her video pane, the little blue 3-dot item,
yeah.
one of the menu items should probably allow to share screen.
Yeah, I got allowed to record, allowed to multi-pin, mute, stop video, chat, pin, view profile, spotlight for everyone.
Which is, all the things the co-host can do, and the host probably
Al-
has
Alternatively,
options, but
alternatively, under security at the bottom, you can just say allow users to share screen. We're trustworthy, folks.
Sure. Very good. All right.
Does yours?
Okay. All right, there we go.
I could share my.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, with yours.
Thanks, Ted.
Yep.
Okay,
There we
can you
go.
all see my screen?
Yes. Well,
Okay, so I want to just acknowledge a couple things, Joel. I think you, it is very confusing. I've been with the county just short of 6 years, and I feel like I am just getting my brain wrapped around how the funding streams work. And so it is confusing. So what I've attempted to do here is just create a visual presentation and walk you through sort of the funding and how it draws down to give you the two options. And I do want to apologize for the two options. We, as a department, found ourselves in a bit of a situation because we had to sort of get in with our youth commissions and sort of have a talk about what the cost for 2025 programming would be before we actually knew how much revenue we were having from the county. And so we're sort of playing catch up and sort of switching some numbers around, not just with you, but with other commissions. So it's not ideal, and I appreciate your patience with us. Let's see here if I can screen, maybe share. Okay. So there's a couple things that I want to sort of just highlight to give you some context of the way the county looks at the funding. So the county requires that all of the dollars it gives to the municipalities are matched dollar for dollar, and it will only reimburse up to 50% of any funded program. Okay, so those are two things to keep in mind as we go through this. So option one, we have, so Tompkins County last year, just for, this will be the case for either of these options that I'm giving you. The OTR that we were talking about was for just a little over $47,000, and is spread out, like I said, among the municipalities. So sort of bring the budgets flush. And the basic drivers behind all of this are salary increases. So the minimum wage has gone up, costs have gone up to employ people, as we know. So that's sort of the driving force behind these cost expenditures. But last year, the county provided $28,120 to Danby. This year, the OTR passed unanimously for all the legislatures. For those that wrote letters, they received more letters for this OTR than any other OTR that came in through any of the county budgets. So we do have a lot of support from the municipalities for this. So they're giving $33,300, and so that's $1,580 more than we had last year, which, if I did my math correctly, which I've been looking at numbers all day, so by I think that's about an 18% increase. So if we're looking at option one, the county would give the $33,300, and as Joel mentioned on the first option, would be the town contribution would be $32,971. This does include RYS, the YES program, the Youth Summer Employment, the $250 sort of fund to buy products for recruitment and to buy a tablecloth and those type of things. And then it also does include the $1,000 scholarship fund. So basically, this is the total cost of the rural youth services. They came in at $56,008. Youth employment, as Joel said, the $7,334 will fund 3.5 spots. And then I did add in the operational fund for 250. That is not county funds, so this is coming directly from you. And then the youth scholarship fund would be 1,000. So that brings us to about 64,000, just under $64,600 for actual expenses. So, and this is where this got a little crazy because our numbers, as I said, we kind of came to the best scenario given we were just unsure of a lot of things. So basically, when we think about county funds, I want you to think of them in two buckets, right? We've got the county funds coming in and the town of Danby funds coming in. So this gives us $66,272 in funding. Basically, the way the county looks at it is we're always going to start with rural youth services. That is positive youth development and sort of our priority as far as the rural youth service system and youth service system across the county. And as I mentioned before, the county will give 50% reimbursement for the total cost of the budget. So at the $56,008, half of that would be $28,004. So we have $33,300 in that sort of bucket or in that bank that is labeled county. We're going to deduct that half out, which will leave us a remaining total of $5,296. But then we still have a half of RYS that they would need to be paid for. So the other half of that is going to be funded from the Danby bucket, right? And at this request, we've got 32,972. So as you can see, doing the math, deducting out that half of that ROAS budget for 2025, that leaves us with $4,958. Okay. The next thing that we're going to look at is that, so we've got, this is the leftover amount of money in each of our buckets, right? And now we've paid for RYS in 2024. Now we're going to look at yes. And it's the same thing with the county. They will reimburse 50%. So in order to do those 3.5 youth, we're looking at $7,334. Half of that would be $3,670. So you can see again, we do the math. That leaves us with $1,629 in county funds that is still in that bucket at the end. We're going to do very similar math here with the amount left in the Danby bucket. So first and foremost, we're going to take out half of that yes amount, which leaves us with the $1,291. Then you would pay for the $1,000 scholarship, and if you chose to allocate funds to that, and then you would also pay the $250, which leaves us $51. And that's a little confusing. And the reason that was left there is, again, because we were sort of trying to hit a moving target in our recommendation at the time that this budget was done. But ultimately, what we're looking at, if you go with option one, is that there's $1,629 in county funds that's available to you, but you cannot access that unless you match it dollar for dollar. So that's that amount, and then we've got the $51 left in the town of Danby bucket.
A quick question, Kate.
Yeah, I was going to say
the $1,000 scholarship money is not eligible for the county match.
No, it is not. It is completely Danby funded.
Well, it's completely Danby funded. The question is, why wouldn't it be matched? Because it's not one of the programs that they recognize, or I mean, it's a youth commission, funded thing for youth, but
Not by the county.
The funding that you may use those $1,000 for, some of the programming may not qualify as positive youth development. Frankly, that's a conversation that I think we could have, but at this point, it's not something that we've done historically. So,
because I mean, to think that those youth scholarships might be given for, and not things that would be within the scope of what the county would regard as youth services.
And one of the other pieces that it might, well, they wouldn't be paying a cost either. Marnie, do you know why?
Do I know why? What?
Yeah, why this? Because I know it used to be 1,000 from the town of Danby, and then it was 1,000 from United Way, and that went away when the switch for the youth commission happened. So,
Well, the United Way doesn't give any money to governments. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that's the 1,000 from the town used to be the match.
That's why we no longer get that $1,000. Then my question is, why the $1,000 isn't eligible?
Explain that.
No, she
didn't explain it.
She said it's possible that we might be able to do something.
If we give them for a different purpose.
No, not for a
necessarily.
different purpose, that they don't know whether all the ones that we might have scholarship, all of them might be positive youth development. They're just making kind of an assumption that they might not be, so therefore they won't, so.
Yeah,
if we could-
it's not necessarily a funding stream that we have had anything to do with historically. If we'd like to look at maybe, but I think we would have to put some qualifications around what type of programs that was used to fund, but it's absolutely a conversation that we could have.
Just thinking we could leverage that a little bit if the county would match it.
Sure, I can go back and I'll talk to Teresa and sort of see historically. I don't want to give you a definitive yes or no. It's not, I just know it's not something that we have been, because it was the match for the United Way money. Does this process make sense to you? So the way that we pull down on the two buckets of funding?
In a broad sense, yes.
Okay, all right. So the second option is really going to follow the same sort of format. The only difference being that in this situation, you are matching that additional $1,629 from the county, so that there is no money left over at the end for either the county reserve, the county bucket, or the Danby bucket. And so this is the amount that we would have from the county. Wouldn't change. Obviously, you would go up a little bit here, $34,550. You would have $67,850 in anticipated revenue coming in. And this is a breakdown of how those funds would be allocated among the different areas. As you can see, that again pays for 5 spots, not 3.5. So as you can see here, this 67,850 matches 67,850 here.
Yeah.
So
a lot simpler to understand.
So you've increased, we've got the additional money. Again, we're only going to fund 50%. This hasn't changed from the last model. We're only going to pay 50% of RYS, which leaves, after we deduct that from the 33,300, we have $5,296 left in the county funds. The 34,550 is what's in the Danby. Again, we would subtract half of that RYS funding first, which would leave you a balance of 6,546 in your bucket. We would then automatically go to the YES program. The cost, and again, this is mostly driven by the increase in minimum wage. The cost for 5 youth of Danby to have, basically they average, I think at full time is 120 hours. So that covers 120 hours of work, plus I think they use a 12.56% fringe rate for seasonal help at the Ithaca Youth Bureau. So that total comes to the 10,592. And again, we would deduct that half from it. So all of the county, hold on. Yeah, so all the county funds would be used because that's what was left after we paid the RYS. This is what Danby would have in its bucket after we paid for half of RYS. And as you can see here, we deduct half, which would leave you to $1,250. You would pay for the $250 fund for the commission, and then the scholarship funds would also come out of that. So at the end, you have no money left. So you've allocated and tapped into all of the funds that are available to you via the county. So I think the other piece to note is that we can find out probably about the scholarships, but the money that the county gives you, you do have to match it to access it. But if for some reason you would choose not to access it this year, that's not going to go away. It will be put back into our revenue, or our target. So it will be here again next year, but we'll be coming in with a recommendation that there would need to be a match at that point to access those funds, plus whatever cost of maintenance increase that the commission would recommend next year.
Got that? What?
Kate just showed up on the
No.
screen. Frozen, but
She's
there.
close.
She's been on this screen all along.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, I can put this as.
So is Kate frozen?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, she's there.
She's very much
Yep.
here.
I can see you and hear you fine. Yeah, I've stopped sharing my screen. So
Turn my camera on, you could actually see me.
I have it on the speaker view. Let's make it gallery.
hi, Joel.
Hi.
Thank you, Kate, for explaining that. I find that all very confusing.
Yeah, no, it is. Like I said, it's taken me 5.5 years to be able to try to explain that to you in a way that I don't confuse myself. So
I found that Jamie's grasp of it was far better than he's indicating. So so I think, the board now has all the information it needs to weigh whether it wants to go to option 1 or option 2. I think it's worth remarking as, and I got this from my conversation with you, that, this over target request for essentially funding more youth was widely supported.
Something, can I just add something? Is that okay?
Sure.
So I reached out to Ever Stokes, who is the representative from the YES program, just to understand like how many of our Danby youth are trying to be funded through the YES program, because that wasn't clear until today. So so Ever mentioned that there are 19 youth from Danby who applied and were not served because of funding.
Okay,
That's a big number.
And actually that program tends to undermarket this program to Danby because they know that the demand far outpaces supply. So just something to keep in mind, that there are a lot of youth who, it's almost like kind of like hard to get it.
Yeah.
Kind of the impression I had. I definitely had parents who reached out in frustration, like it was really early in the season and they're like, why is it already fall?
It's closed.
It's already closed. And so then
I got the word to some of those youth that they could be lifeguards in our.
Maybe.
Not gonna match 19.
It wasn't even appearing on their website that we were even one of the places where that could be funded, not because they were trying to exclude us, but they were trying to downplay how available it is, because it's just not available to the youth. So this would certainly, 3.5 to 5 is not like the 19, but it's definitely more than,
It helps.
it would help a lot.
Yeah, right. Up in the direction.
So the
Recognizing-
revised budget lists 34.5 as the budget amount. That I assume is what the choice is.
Well, it's either what Laura put in after we spoke this morning was the higher amount. So that's option 2, reflected in the budget, the revised budget. Does that answer your question?
Sort of.
Higher amount over the 32,972 to 34,550.
Right.
Correct.
The page just in time. So do you run the program? Is that?
So I am chairperson of the Danby Youth Commission. So I don't run it. I'm just the person who helps coordinate our meetings and make sure we're, doing the things we're supposed to be doing in terms of the agenda. And, I help make sure the youth scholarship is being allocated properly. We have all the documentation and,
Right.
So
I haven't met you before. My name is Paul. Your name is?
Jamie Sorrentino.
Jamie Sorrentino. Oh, I know that name.
Yeah, I feel like we've met.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Any questions from the board?
I just feel bad that there's 19 potential
Right.
folks who
Good to know that.
would,
But we could fund them if we wanted to, all ourselves.
what's that?
So we could fund more if
Right.
we wanted to, all ourselves.
Right.
Mhm.
There'd be no match.
We say, I kind of wonder whether you couldn't use some of those youths for like helping out with the data transfer in the clerk's office or code. Or I wasn't really talking about finding a lifeguard has been an uphill battle for us, and we're willing to train.
Yeah, finding lifeguards is an issue all across the county. They are it is very difficult to find a lifeguard at this point. So even with the higher wage and programs waiving fees for the classes, it's just really hard to find.
Yeah. And why wouldn't, some of those many youth who are applying for the youth employment and not be interested in lifeguarding as an option?
Certainly not a long-term job.
It's
You
true,
want
it's not. I mean,
long-term
what are you
that's not
training
good.
for, right? A career in lifeguarding? Yeah.
They have to pay for the training has to be done, not.
But we pay
and
for
they
it.
don't get,
Yeah, we pay for it.
it's not a full, it's,
It's
I
seasonal
think you have
work.
to be 19 or whatever, so that leaves out a lot of younger people who can't apply for it.
You don't have to be nineteen to
think
be
it's
a lifeguard.
The yes program
It's 60.
primarily targets 14 to 16-year-olds.
Right.
I mean, on paper, I think you can apply up into the age of 20, but.
It's really that narrow
It's
band.
It's
14-year-olds that are the ones that are very anxious to go to work. And most places, because of work laws and costs, don't hire kids under the age of 16. I think some of that's changing, because, in entry-level positions, there has been less people that have been interested, but.
Yeah, I think it's 16 is the age, and I do think even some people are paying for the classes to become certified. But I think one of the biggest things that I've heard and from the Ithaca Youth Bureau, from the village from Groton, you know, people that have pools, is that the responsibility for the cost that they're making per hour, they can go to a fast food restaurant and make the same amount and not be responsible for someone's actual, you know, life and death situation. So, you know, they just seem to be valuing things a little bit differently.
So,
They need to watch some Baywatch.
so this YES program's been around a long time. I think I
Yes.
remember my brother being
Yes,
a YES
It has been around for a long time.
employee.
yes.
Yeah, it's been around a long time.
Back. And it was a lot of, I mean, it's not just limited to like lifeguarding. There's a
Oh,
lot
no,
of
not at all.
opportunities.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's like,
say,
yeah, go ahead.
Joel's suggestion was one of my thoughts, because I used a lot of young people within the town hall, Red being one of them when I was working for the town of Ithaca. So that is, you know, a wonderful connection to make for young people in terms of civics, I mean, it really is a good connection.
Right.
And in some,
Activities.
yeah, and in some municipalities, the RYS actually does offer youth services. So not all of the commissions, most of them do, but not all of them partner with. Yes, some of them do it in-house. The problem with that is that you have to have the jobs in the actual town then itself. So if you had enough at City Hall, if you had, you know, if there were enough jobs, you could, that is something that we could talk about. That would change the cost of programming a little bit, because it just sort of what would be required of the program manager. So, I mean, but if that's something that you would like to talk about in the future, we absolutely can have that conversation with Shelley and see
And I
what.
think we're talking about like the
can't.
town clerk.
You should be
supervisor.
closer to be ready.
I think, Kate, I think what we're talking about in this instance is like the town clerk supervising a yes employee.
Oh, so you would actually have work sites there? Yeah, no, that would be.
I think
yeah.
that's what both Joel and Paul are suggesting, because recently, you know, even help with a newsletter, there's been some talk about consolidating some of that in-house.
Sure.
And I, for several years when I was in Enfield, we actually had a youth editor for our newsletter there, so
Sure.
I'll throw that in.
I think, having spoken to Ever about different employment sites, my understanding is that, you know, if there's a place that is interested in having youth, that they need to contact the YES program and say, hey, we're available, and they initiate a connection and they see if that's a good match, and that they kind of check off all the boxes. And I've had people, residents of Danby, who've reached out to me and say, hey, I'd like to have youth in my workplace. And of course, I don't know all the requirements, so I direct them to the YES program. It's like, reach out to them and see if your workplace will be, you know, conducive to that. Safe, yeah.
Among other things.
Yes,
Among other
I'm sure
things.
they have to do a lot of checking and background checks,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
the more, you know, obviously it'd be great to have jobs for kids in Danby.
So
Because there's not,
it's also commercial. It's not have to be, doesn't have to be public. Could be
No, not at
commercial.
all. Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
yeah,
And part of the idea of going to a commercial venue is the child starts there, kind of learns the ropes, and then gets hired privately. So there's no longer any government subsidies, so you've created a essentially a permanent.
Way to employment, if you will.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, that's, yes, true, thank you.
So just out of curiosity, since you're the director, have you reached out to like Therm or some of the bigger?
well, I don't know that, I think the YES program has a lot of employers who are they're working with, and they have a lot of, like, I think they're good. And so I don't know.
They've got plenty,
They've got plenty,
including plenty of places here in Danby.
probably not in Danby, no. No. So I do direct people to them and say, yeah, if you have something in mind, talk to them and see if your place would meet all their requirements.
So the summer youth employment funding is also coupled with different towns that give money. And so the YES has different funding sources that come in, and they start the recruiting process for both youth and employers probably in April. So you're early enough in the process that if you're interested in having Ever come out and take a look, that's something that my office can help with. And we could kind of see if there were some stuff that you wanted to do so that by the time most of the jobs don't start until July, just because school lets out at the end of June. And so some of them start a little bit sooner. It just depends on what it is. But you've got time to have that conversation if you're interested.
So we're really talking about 2025.
Yeah, well, this is
This isn't 225 budget.
Budget.
the budget, yeah, exactly.
Of course. And what month is it?
And there's a whole other organization, workplace development,
Right.
workforce development, that now is doing exactly what you're talking about with with older
Right,
people.
right.
Yeah. This program is geared very much to like the first job.
Yeah, so they couple that with sexual harassment training, with budgeting, with how to talk to your employer, how to call out, how to show up, how to read policies and procedures. They really do a really good job of providing wraparound services for the youth in their program. And they also help, so if the employer has an issue, they also help that, and they really do try to take the interest of the youth and the need of the employer and match it so that it will be successful, because they want it to be a good experience for everybody.
And it's also for kids that have, maybe not so much economic challenges, but other challenges for, one success story we had this past year involved the local youth with, anxiety issues. And that was, they had a highly successful placement down at Children's Garden. And so, and this child was known to the Youth Bureau through her participation in the Big Brother, Big Sister program. And so this was something that I guess the Big Brother identified as really
Great.
useful for this child's.
Developmentally.
Yes, and so the modest money that you're investing for the potentially tremendous payback for the individual, the family, the community, because it's not just the pride of the dollars earned, it's the pride of, I can do it. And that is so important for individuals that have anxiety in particular. And according to a presentation we had at the Youth Services Board earlier, 9.4% of youth are facing anxiety-related impairments.
Right.
Oh, wow.
It's terrible.
So it's 9.4%. I mean, it was an alarming statistic. I, called down to the Kate's office because I wanted to make sure I had it right, and that's what it was. So. I think that these.
We did our own survey last
Yes.
year, and
Right.
we surveyed our youth, and 50% of youth actually said that anxiety was something they struggle with in the last year.
Remember that survey.
Yeah, 50%. That's a lot. And this particular youth that you're talking about, I don't think she thought she could even do the program. She was like, I can't even apply. I can't even step foot in this children's garden. And she was like escorted there, and she was given a tour beforehand, and someone from the YES program came and visited her every week. And I don't know that, without that support, I don't know that she would have done that program, or would have done any job for that matter.
Mhm.
If you want, Mariah can't get what you say for the minutes, and a lot of it's really important, and she can't get it. Yeah, just move closer and stay close. I mean, we're probably pretty much done.
Thanks,
so-
Marie.
No, I don't have anything else to say.
What?
Mariah, I'll tell you everything later.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
I wonder how much of that you were catching, but not a lot, got it. Ted Crane has a question. Relevant, Ted?
Yes, yes. I too found the presentation confusing. The money is actually pretty, what was trying to be explained is actually pretty simple. But I'd like to observe that the real thing that you should be discussing is not where the money is coming from. I mean, I'm perfectly happy with you spending the entire request, no question about that. But asking where the money is going to. You spend an awful lot of time talking about the smallest items on the proposed budget, but not what's happening with the big money. And that's my comment.
You were focused on the ones that have some
I mean, you've
questions
talked,
associated with it.
yeah, you've talked about the $1,000 and $5,000 items, but not what's happening with the other 50,000 plus.
I think the biggest share of the money is towards the rural youth service program itself. That's the biggest share.
Yeah.
And of that, if you look at that budget, the biggest expense by far is
Personnel.
the salary of the program educator who's dedicated to provide after-school programming and summer programming to the youth of Danby.
We do have quite a bit of information on, what programs are being provided.
Right, monthly reports and feedback that we hear from families, but it would be lovely if we had enough money and we had two providers and more people, because we have people that are interested, but we understand budget, it's hard.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, it's expensive to provide this programming, but it's an investment in the community.
It's a valuable program.
Yeah, we're rural. Our kids, we're not downtown, so and after school programming and summer programming is not free. It's very expensive. And when you're kind of out in the country and things are expensive, it's a way to provide enrichment for your kids. That's not them sitting on their computer at home alone in their room. It's them connecting with each other. It's them being, in nature, doing nature-based things, not on screens, feeling a sense of belonging, being creative. Heidi creates a real atmosphere that is very inclusive. A lot of the kids, my own included, are part of the programs that she does. And some of the kids are kids who are not like part of the mainstream and don't always fit in everywhere. And this is a program where they fit in. And these kids need to fit in somewhere.
And again, this was the Rural Youth Services program was the program that got the most feedback to the entire county legislature about its positivity. And that was both, from parents and others that saw the benefits of this investment in our youth, because, we're nothing without our youth. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be all about.
Okay. I hope we can wrap this up because it's time to move on to the regular meeting.
I have a whole lot of questions about the budget.
Me too. And we can come back at the end of the regular, at the business agenda. I got it on here, further considerations, which I think, I'm hoping we will back through.
Did you have other questions about this?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. I was gonna leave.
Yeah, there's lots more to talk about.
Okay.
But
All right, thank you for your time.
we just ran out of time
Thanks
for
for
this
coming,
part.
Jim.
Sure.
When do you intend to decide on the budget?
We have until November 19th to vote on it. We have to have a public hearing on what we're willing to propose by early November. And I'm going to propose later on that we have that hearing on it at the first reading in November, which is the day before the election.
Oh,
Sort of our traditional time to do it. And then we can still adjust it after the hearing.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
I'm going to excuse myself if you guys don't need
Yes,
anything
thank you,
more.
Kate.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And if you need anything else, please let me know. I'll try not to be
will
so
indeed.
confusing.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, so let us. Maybe we can take a 2-minute break. We call the regular meeting to order.
What did you just say?
I'm thinking I might take this opportunity to take a bathroom break, come back.
I call this meeting to order. No, we couldn't.
Are there any presentations tonight or? So I think
That was it.
we could do I mean, we could just do a hard reboot and just bring
Yeah, I
it
was
back up.
thinking,
But we'd have to, with the folks on the Zoom now.
That's probably worth doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was glitching earlier if you saw it was kind of doing a little.
Do you think the problem is possibly in the monitor itself?
I'm not sure. It was kind of glitchy earlier, then it just went totally off.
Yeah, turn it off, turn it on, right?
But if I turn the computer off, then it's gonna shut down Zoom, so.
Yeah.
um,
Which may not be a bad idea. 2 separate meetings.
Yeah.
People would just have to go back in.
Do you have a persuader, a rubber mallet handy?
Oh, there we go. All right. That worked. I don't know. I think it said it. Well, the monitor was off for a minute, so.
Right.
Maybe device will restart. So
Yeah.
get this working. Yeah, why don't you
That's what.
What happened anyway?
maybe just say, don't restart now. I'll just say, okay.
Yeah, I did,
Just, okay.
Here, Joel.
yeah, I did that earlier. It asked me that and I said, okay. So that shouldn't have been a consideration.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
You know,
I wonder what happened. What happened that it came back?
huh?
She pushed the button.
Don't hit the button now because you're gonna mute it.
Which button was it?
Why not?
I just turned it back on, so it
Yeah.
must have just needed some
Oh,
time to
That's the standard technique.
have some power on.
Yeah, the old reboot approach to fixing the problem.
You
That's
turned the
good.
monitor back on?
Could we what?
You turned the monitor back on, Greg?
Yeah.
It had
Yeah.
shut itself down on its own?
Here it is. Yeah, it just sort of shut down on its own, which is kind of bizarre. I mean, it was going on and all of a sudden it wasn't.
Must be connected to the Cuban power supply.
Yeah, right. Okay. Got them back with the 50 watt.
make less noise.
So let's call the regular meeting to order a little bit late, about 6:08. Remember that. Is there anyone, well, say, first of all, additions and deletions to the agenda? Did I forget anything? No, okay. Privilege of the floor. Anyone who'd like to address the board? Ted,
There we go. Let's put on my video. I have 2 items. While I appreciate that I said a lot of words at the last meeting, I would kind of appreciate if there was a little more specificity as to what the reservation was that I expressed to passing the budget override law. Something on the order of that the town should exercise financial restraint over its recent additions to the budget, like, technical contracts and maintenance contracts that it really hasn't demonstrated up till now, which would also help you stay under the tax cap. And second, I read through your proposed regulatory review committee proposal document. And I remember that I was privileged and honored to attend a training program offered by the Land Use Leadership Alliance. It was put on by Pace University and I'm looking at the notes from it, and Cardi and Government Law Center some years ago. And one of the things I took away from that program was that the first thing you want to do is to get the public involved. You want them involved in the process of anything involving land use from the beginning and as, you know, as effectively as possible. In fact, what it says here, in just one sentence, local boards can create a decision-making climate to which citizens can be involved, in which citizens can be involved productively and engaged constructively in controversial land use decisions. Controversial is something of a redundancy. All land use decisions are pretty much controversial. And when I look at the text that you in your proposal, they are open to the public for observation, comma, with participation at the discretion of the committee and its chair. Now, I understand you have to, shall we say, have some control over, shall we say, I don't know, the bad behavior by the public. But the idea that the public is simply there to kibitz isn't following what we were trained for in that 4-week training course. You want the public involved not only as kibitzers, but as decision makers with vote. That's my comment. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Rhonda?
I just wanted to say that I am opposed to, I don't want to lump it all together and say I'm opposed to the youth services program, but I'm certainly opposed to all of this money being spent on children getting jobs. You know, having spent a good portion of my life, decades, teaching students, I get to talk to them and learn about what they're doing in their free time. And certainly a lot of them seem to be rather successful at picking up jobs here and there. Even kids that are in middle school, you know, find babysitting jobs and yard work and all of that sort of thing. And I think the whole business of saying, oh, well, we're out in a rural area. No, we have a bus service. You know, we also have parents who can be driving their children and the older children can drive. So I feel that children need to be making a much more of an effort themselves. There are a lot of kids that just sort of sit around and don't make any effort. And there are a lot of them, and I'm not lumping them all into Danby. They're, you know, that's the way kids are sometimes. But there are a lot of jobs and you can go door to door and ask for work. There's really, in my opinion, no reason for us to be paying this kind of money to just a handful of kids. We really, if they need help, then we should be hiring somebody to help them find a job. But this business of picking a few children, maybe 5, and giving them work at thousands of dollars, I don't think that that's very effective. And we could be doing much better. But there are jobs even posted in the high school, for example. I remember a number of years ago when I was still teaching, there was a big sign in the counselor's office that New York State Highway Department was looking for summer jobs, and they were paying more than I was getting as a sub. So, you know, that's just garbage.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay. Marnie, would you like to
Oh.
comment and privilege of the floor?
Yes.
Well, I just want to expand. Things have changed since I babysat. I'm 74 years old and the world is a different world. And the things that my grandchild has to face it's a very different world than the world that I faced. And I think that I like to think of all of the community's children as part of my community. And I want them all to succeed. And I think that we all have some responsibility in giving different people what they need to succeed. And everything all the data statistically will prove that $1 invested at the 14, 16-year-old age to someone that has potentially can go off the wire will save society thousands of dollars and also just have so much better benefit for the community. You know, and sometimes kids do sit around, but those are the kids that do need that kind of community hug, for lack of a better expression, to see that there are other things they can do than, you know, potentially all of the things that are available to children that take them down a path that is not protected, beneficial to society.
Or to
So-
them.
Or them, yes, thank you, thank you.
Anyone else with privilege of the floor? Okay. Correspondence, I see, I didn't get to read it completely. Request for using the town hall meeting room, which raised a couple of questions. I don't think we could address it tonight, but I think it sounds like a great activity. But it was proposed to be a paid event. And we have problem.
And we avoided that in the past.
We have, and I don't know, I'm not sure why we did. I mean, it was a requirement that there's going to be, there would be, you know, they have to have their liability insurance. That could be problematic unless it was going to be sponsored by a group that we do support, like the Community Park Association. But then it still raises the question about if it's a, you know, fee for service kind of event.
It's not open to the public, technically. I mean, it's only open to people who can afford to pay.
Well, sure. I mean, it's
So it's kind of a can of worms.
it could be, I mean, it could be that we, if, you know, instead of having it be a ticketed event, that it'd be a, you know, what do they call it?
Donation.
Suggested donation.
Could be, but it sounded like there was a need for.
She had the minimum cost of
To pay for
$150.
the ability to actually.
Yeah, yeah,
put
it should be
on.
a big bit of a gamble that you're gonna collect that
The
much
church.
proceeds.
And I don't
could
think
be,
it's only
you know,
gamble.
The church could,
Well, it-
might,
It's got a better,
They might-
it actually has a stage,
I know.
Well, that's true. I mean,
Well, that would be a better, yeah, and much more room.
Yeah.
and more room, you
Oh,
know.
that would be much.
It's on the same side of the street.
Right.
it's
that
not
was the
quite as
thing
close,
to
but it's
me.
not very far away.
Yeah, but the problem with our suggesting that people go get food back and forth across the road, it may be a liability for us because the road it's too dangerous.
The road's a liability on itself. Yeah.
Right. So,
Well, I mean, the
Church
church
is
had
on
the
the
advantage of
same
being on
side.
the same side of the street.
Right.
right.
And a stage in a bigger room. And a stage. The stage would be very helpful.
And an ample
This-
parking lot to
This
boot.
person might not even know to think about asking. that, so
Parking,
That's
Yeah.
correct.
A reasonable response, have you checked with?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Can someone have a talk with them?
Sure. I mean, we can respond to the request saying, did you think about?
Right.
And if not, and I don't know, maybe Karthik suggested the town hall. It's a nice space for.
You probably do.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, I think certainly it sounded like an interesting and worthwhile event.
It did. Sound like something it'd be nice to have,
Yeah.
Right.
one way or another.
I'd just like to point out that the person, I read the letter and she mentioned the
Okay.
library twice and she didn't ask to meet in the town hall.
Yeah, we did. I can't. I'm not in control.
I'd be willing to call and talk to her.
Okay. Pat, you want to do it?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was suggested it could be a benefit for the library. That was an interesting suggestion.
Right.
Having it be here would be, make that connection. You know?
It just didn't sound like an event, and it might be something Pat could find out talking with her, but it didn't sound like an event that was able to sort of be loose with donation stuff, you know,
Well, that was the question I had.
yeah.
But it's worth exploring the options anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, announcements. We have the required list of positions and their expirations and who's in them. We wanted to add, and we did historians there now.
I have it in the next.
Do you?
A little one.
Yeah.
Now?
Sure.
Yeah. Danny Wheeler and some of the guys from the 148th are gonna be out at the monument tomorrow at noon, touching up the paint. And nice way if anybody happens to be
On
around.
the fence?
Yes, on the fence.
Yeah, great.
So if anybody happens to be around,
Okay.
pat them on the back.
It's gonna be a perfect
Not
day.
while they're painting.
The back's okay. Just don't push.
Yeah, just don't push.
Don't push, right?
Anyway, that's all.
It's a perfect day to do that.
Yes. it's-
Reports and presentations, we probably ought to contact Dan. It's been a long time since he actually came to a meeting.
I can't understand.
Dan Klein,
Oh,
it's been a long time since he's actually
yeah,
reported anything. And similarly, Keith,
I'll check in with them.
yeah,
Wait, wait a second, what are we talking about? Wait a minute.
Reports.
reports and presentations.
What?
Reports and presentations. Yeah. We have, we put Dan and Keith on, but it's been a long time since either of them spoke to us unless they had something specific that they wanted to bring up. Meeting minutes, they look pretty good to me. Made a couple minor suggestions, which I think Mariah accepted.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to move to approve the minutes of the October 7th meeting.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All right, the vote.
Connors,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. The warrants. We've got all the tweaks, all the kinks worked out, right? Yes.
Could we talk about one of the line items?
Do you have an adjustment we need to make before, or?
Oh, yes.
We don't need to make an adjustment, but I just had an explanation for one.
Okay, we'll pull up a chair or,
Sure.
because,
What about the wire, so. It'd be like me to put that right on that wire, yeah. I went through and sent everybody out, the, budget analysis for
Yes.
all of the line items.
Yeah.
Which is actually something that we do attach, and to us, it's the most important part of the supervisor's report that we put in. Next time we'll have one with bank balances on it, but this is something that's gonna be signed by Joel, that will be admitted into the records for the amount. So in other words, it's the report that says, here's the budget, these are our year-to-date expenses, and this is how much we have remaining in each line item.
right,
So
For all
we're
three.
preparing that for each one, so that you guys have that analysis and you know if you're going over in any line item and if we need to make the transfer. And that's what you need to do for your responsibility. We had one last week that we did. And that pertained to the highway, the general repairs contractual. And we just made that $2,000 and some odd adjustment so that you guys had that. I can tell you, here we're at it, if we were to look at this, we have a minus 2,659 again in that line item.
Did you send this out?
Yes,
Yeah, this afternoon, I think.
this afternoon, so that's probably why you didn't see it. But I'd be happy to give you a copy of it, so you got a paper copy in your hand before you go, just so you can take a look at it. But I can tell you that I didn't prepare a resolution to transfer anything there, because I'm
Okay.
just telling you that what we really have is we've got a lot of material on the ground. And that's where that looks like that's going over, that was charged to this A 5110.4. And it's material that's on the ground. It's actually some of the material that's going to be covered by the ARPA funds that we're putting into the project for around the building. You know, that drainage thing for around the building. So, a large amount of that, so at least 15,000 in that line item will be covered by
ARPA funds, and some of it is already sitting there waiting for our next CHIPS job that's gonna happen. So that's why I didn't prepare. I might not have an exact figure there for you, but I can tell you that at least $15,000 of that
So it'll be
wouldn't be charged in that line item. It'll be moved, or it'll be supplemented with the ARPA amount that's in there. That was the only one. The rest of them, we didn't have any negatives. We didn't have anything overdrawn based on this abstract.
Thank you.
And if you'd like a paper copy, I'd be happy to make you one. I know I like working off of those, but,
Yeah,
okay, so that's what I wanted to explain about that before, just so that we touched base on the supervisor's
So there's no need for a
information.
budget transfer.
There's no need for a budget transfer, because we're on target with
okay.
that. Any other questions?
Not yet. We'll
Okay.
we'll come back to it. Are you ready to act, Leslie?
Uh,
Do we have this right now?
Well, I mean, there's the. Do we just leave the $1.44 tax in there and then it'll be
What you'll do is you'll see that come through on another credit card.
as a negative? Okay,
When they credit it back.
okay,
So you've got to make that communication and credit that.
okay. I move the general fund vouchers 337 through 363 for $23,072.80.
No, not 92, but 80.
I have 80.
I got 92 because that was where I printed just before the meeting. What
thought
accounts for the
I thought it
right,
was 92 as well. Is it amended?
well, I don't know, because I mean, I don't know, where did you get 80?
Oh, I see 82.
that's the
I see
4-cent
80
difference.
now.
It's a 4-cent difference, okay.
Yes, but the 4-cent difference,
But why,
it's on that correctly.
that's 92, that's
It's on the voucher correctly, but it was in the backup
right.
that 4 cents was in there. We didn't change the backup. So we don't have to take the 4 cents back out of it. Or add it in whichever way it went. What is on that?
What's on the agenda is in 92 cents.
I have 80 on the,
I have 80 on the abstract.
That's what it would be.
That's what-
No, it's on the abstract.
so it's what I said.
Okay, so it's just, it's wrong on the agenda somehow.
But the work is 4 cents difference.
That's what I said, yeah. I
That
thought,
would have been a 12-cent difference, but anyway, 80 is correct.
yeah,
I don't know why it's wrong on the agenda, but yes.
things happen.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the vote, Mariah.
Connors,
Yes,
Hanson,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
so the highway. Are we adding, do we need to add the invoice, the voucher for the Angelos sand and gravel?
No, because I see that Julia didn't prepare one.
Okay, it'll be on the next one.
It'll be on the
Okay.
next one.
Okay,
Because it's a possibility, maybe she had some questions about that.
okay,
But maybe it just got into the scanning.
alrighty. So vouchers, highway fund vouchers, 188 through 197 for $19,417.96.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Pat did it. Discussion? No? Okay,
Connors,
Yes,
Hanson,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon.
yes.
Thank you.
I'll move the West Danby Water District vouchers 30 through 35 for $5,233.60.
Second. Discussion. As a second. clogging my throat. I think we're ready. Mariah?
Connors,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hunter, Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I thought we better touch base on where we stand in our ARPA commitment process. Several candidate things for which we could spend the money and where we are in the scheme of things. The word on the town hall entry doesn't look very good. Steve told me this afternoon that he got a call from Jeff Rockwell, who said he wouldn't be providing quote.
You wouldn't be providing any quotes?
Evidently.
He's not in doing the flat work?
I didn't, I mean, all I got was that essentially a one sentence thing. I got a call from Jeff Rockwell, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Steve to
Do
see.
you know when he called him?
He said either this morning or it was yesterday, I forget what she said, but you know,
No.
very recently.
Okay.
I mean, that would have been the basis for us to go to get other quotes, you know, if we had it.
Right.
Absent that, the prospect of getting it together in time to get something together by the end of the year becomes vanishingly small. There's a possibility we could do the door, you know, the automatic opener. It's kind of something you could break out from that. That doesn't require, you know, anybody else
And
to
it could
put
be,
together the
it could
specs.
be done regardless of, you know,
Whether-
years down the road.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So that could still be spec'd and we could get at least an idea whether that could be included.
When's our next meeting?
Was our next meeting?
Yeah.
Well, it's November 4th, unless we meet between now and then to work on the budget.
November
Right.
4th?
Yeah,
Let me, do my thing
okay.
and see what I can pull across, pull together.
Mhm.
Oh,
I'm not
so you're
doing,
gonna threaten this guy? You're gonna threaten?
no, not Jeff. I'm gonna probably go after the King brothers
No.
and myself, because I have a history with them. If not them, then maybe I'll talk to
Yes,
the Mentiers guys. There's just, you know, people
Yeah.
used over the
Yeah.
years that I can start to ask questions of them.
another item on the list was the fire hydrant replacement for the water district.
Right.
And the word there is not good either. They were having a hard time finding anybody to do it at all. Steve got a lead on a couple contractors in Spencer, and he got a quote from one and he's trying to get a quote from the other. The expectation in our part was based on what the town of Ithaca budgeted, or I guess it's one point, budgeted for hydrant replacement in their district, which was $7,000 per hydrant.
7?
7. So we said, well, let's figure 10, because it's going to probably be more to have somebody else do it.
30.
And then it came back for the 3 hydrants, because the contractor recommended that we replace the valves as well as the hydrants. And that's a big deal because you have to shut the system down to do it, because you know you got to drain it in order to change the valve.
Oh.
And then instead of and the quote was for the 3 hydrants, $64,000.
It's twice as much.
Did he explain why he wants to replace the valve?
Well, because you said those valves probably haven't been opened since they were installed or closed, you know, haven't been exercised. Because we could always try working them and see whether they work or not before we decide they have to be replaced, but they're 60 years old, you know. So where we left it, Ben Coakley said he would talk to because he's connected with I forget which one he works for, but to see whether or not there's some possibility of having, you know, maybe the Ithaca crew do it or something.
So does this valve have to be closed in order to replace the hydrant?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why the valve is there. Because the hydrant itself has a valve.
The answer is yes.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you can close that valve and you can then replace the hydrant without having to shut the water off, basically, in order to do it. Otherwise, you have to basically drain it down in order to, you're putting a big hole in the pipe, you know, essentially. And you know, it's fiber cement pipe, it's brittle. getting that old valve off and putting a new valve on could be a non-trivial task. And then you've got to, got to pump things out. You're gonna have to do a chlorine test, chlorination of between the.
Okay,
hydrant
back to the
thing.
original question.
Anyway, it makes it a lot more expensive than if you could just unbolt one, bolt another one on.
Right. Well, that's what I'm wondering, is if we can replace the fire hydrant without messing with the valve.
Well, that was kind of what we were hoping
How
to
old are
do.
these valves?
Well, they were installed with a system.
Well, I mean, maybe it's worth spending $60,000 to replace the valves and the fire hydrants. I mean, if the valves start going, how many valves are there?
One for each hydrant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens if the valves go?
Especially in the winter.
How are they gonna go? I mean, the only thing that can happen with the valve is it could be stuck shut, so you can't shut it off.
Well, there's open now, right?
They're open now because the water goes to the hydrant, There's a valve at the bottom of the hydrant, so that when the fire department connects to it, they open the hydrant
Right.
valve and that lets the water come through. That other valve is there specifically to enable work on the hydrant, so that you don't have to shut down the whole system in order to work on it. But now it's saying, well, you should shut down the whole system so we can replace that too.
Okay, just so I know what you're talking about. So first of all, are we replacing the valve underneath the hydrant, or are we replacing the valves that you need to shut down to work on the hydrant?
Well, you would replace the valve that's in the hydrant automatically if you replace the hydrant.
Right.
Right. So he's talking about the other two.
He's talking about the other hydrants, the other valve, the one that connects it to the main. So there's a short lateral, less than 20 feet from the main to the hydrant. Oops, didn't mean to do that.
And the West Danby Water District, people that work on that didn't think there's a problem with the water going off because it wouldn't be off on.
They didn't think it was necessary to change the valves?
They didn't think it
We
would be
didn't
a
think-
problem turning the water off.
Because it wouldn't be
People that
off very
needed-
long.
Because it wouldn't be off for very long, so that,
If they can do it in a
That's
4-hour
not a big
window,
deal.
it's okay, but you have to maintain positive pressure, which is gonna be hard to do when your hydrant's not. It's gonna be hard to do with a hydrant that's downhill of the,
Right, because you're confusing it, and we're listening to the West Danby Water District and what they're saying.
staff.
I mean, we don't need to figure out necessarily, the problems in doing it. They probably have a better idea.
well, the only reason I mention is because that's why it's so much more expensive than we were figuring, is that the contractor's recommending that we replace the
The valve.
valve and not just the hydrant.
Right,
So it's a lot more money,
a lot more,
a lot more money, yeah.
10 times more money.
Yeah, almost 10 times as much. So,
Twice as much, would have cost 30,000 to
well, I mean,
replace. the
if you're figuring,
hydrant.
if others are doing it for 7,000, then it would be
Who's doing it for 7,000?
the Bolton Point, I guess, when in the city, when they replace their hydrants with their own
I
crew.
never heard, I mean, I just heard them saying it was probably gonna cost around $10,000 to replace
Right.
each hydrant.
Right, that's what we figured, if they could do it for 7, we probably, by hiring somebody else to do it, would probably cost us more. Let's guess 10,
Right,
turned out to be way more than that.
so it costs $30,000 for the hydrant and another 30, twice as,
Yeah.
another 30 for the valves.
No,
Do you
no,
know what?
the valve is, it's, because 3
It's a
times 30
package
is
deal.
90
Yeah, it's a package deal, $64,000 for the 3,
for the whole.
so it's 20 some odd thousand a piece.
Right, instead of
So
10
it's really just double
apiece,
the amount.
it's 20 apiece.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Right, so 60 is twice,
Yeah. it's
originally it would have cost 30,000 to replace the hydrants, add another 30 on to do the valve, also do the valves.
In effect, that's what it amounts to.
Right,
That's the
What do
theory,
they
but I
think?
don't think the code, I don't think says that the valve is 10,000.
No,
The
it's
whole
not.
job is 10,000, so it's not like just doing the hydrant is 10,000, that's not true. And then the valve is 10,000.
we don't know how much the hydrant's gonna be, they were guessing 10,000 each.
And that's
What
what-
we found is that it's gonna be 21,000 pieces,
To do the
essentially,
hydrant and the valve.
to do the hydrant and the valve.
Right.
Yes.
But it's not
What is
like
the
10,000 is the valve.
Huh?
It's not like 10,000 is the valve in each of those. The whole thing is more expensive.
In
So
other words,
Right.
it
It
makes
costs
sense
twice
to
as
do-
much to do the
The whole
valves in
thing.
addition to the hydrants.
From this,
So
from this company.
Yeah, right, and there's one quote.
So.
Trying to get
what is-
another-
What do the water district folks think? Do they think the valves should be replaced?
When we get them to tell us what they think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think we've got a certain amount of sticker shock, but what do we do? Because we're talking, what's the town gonna do? Could we use, there was talk, of maybe splitting the cost and having ARPA pay for part of it and use the fund reserve for
Right.
part of it.
Right.
Should we replace the valves? I mean, personally, I think you ought to try, see whether they'll open and close it before you decide that they can't.
You had better have somebody on the ready to do it then. If you do that and you open it and they can't,
Can't what?
if they can't close, they
Well,
can't.
they're already open. It's a question of can you close it?
Right, and any number of other
It
things
could be
we
stuck
discussed,
open.
you said the
Mhm.
valves, the pipes are brittle, some of that's brittle.
Yeah.
You mess with it and it breaks. Then somebody has to be on the ready to work on it because, I mean, the other thing that's a problem is the pipes are brittle. That was in the early in the year discussion.
Yeah. Then it's kind of in their nature. It's kind of in their nature.
Can we find out from them?
Yeah. So anyway, that's
Whether they
just an
think
update
it's-
is that,
they think it's worth,
right.
and
Is it
it's
Steve's
a
wife that
system
would
that's really important.
make a presentation next meeting?
They're not, the only trouble with this is they're not, they know how to use the system.
Right.
But they can't, maybe, it's the same thing as that, I know how to use the system, but I can't say that I can go out and tell the solar array that it's gonna last another 20 years. But I know how to measure what it's doing. That's why, and to me, like all these things that are happening in this time of year for all over the town, the county, are a lot better than when it happens in the middle of the winter.
Right.
Right.
And we have ice all over from it,
Yeah.
it could be terrible.
Right. I'm just thinking, we're throwing around ideas about replacing equipment that's how old?
Well, so the system was installed in 69,
Okay.
It's old.
I mean,
So it's what?
I
45 years old, 55.
By the way,
don't think 30,000.
can they go out and test those valves and see if they can close them?
Well, that would be what I would do. But
So can't we suggest that to them and go out and try to find out whether the valves close or not?
Well, we better find somebody to work on the hydrants first.
But that's not the point,
No,
is that
Well,
the hydrant is a valve, essentially,
right.
right.
right? So we're trying to figure out whether the valve is stuck or needs to be repaired or not. Suggesting it in itself, in case of something.
I mean, the
Yeah,
contractor's
but-
sort of presuming that that the valve will be problematic, and so you ought to replace the valve while you're at it. I think we ought to try the valve and see if it works or not.
Right.
You know,
That would be, couldn't you do that between now and the next meeting?
Sure,
Good.
yes.
Let's
Anyway,
do
that's
that.
part of it. The other additional expense was the and the group is wondering whether the town is willing to include it in the ARPA funding, is the cost of the new office is not just the building, but the electric. And it looked like now it's gonna cost, remember the number, it was like $4,000 plus just to run the power from the pump house down to the office. Even with the volunteers doing the in-building wiring.
Okay,
And, are we willing, that's something we could include in the ARPA funding if we wanted to.
We also have the $300,000 that is controversial, I know. But
What
the fund balance or whatever you call it.
oh, you mean in the water district?
Yes.
Yes, it has
The-
$300,000 in fund in the.
Right, so a
fund balance.
combination of ARPA money and some of that might make sense. This is,
Yeah, right.
yeah, it's a logical thing to do when you're gonna do this. I mean, I remember when we were sitting there at that first meeting I went to, and they said the pipes are really old, and we were even talking about whether we had to replace half the pipes.
Yeah, and when we had a brief discussion about that, saying there's no way,
I know, so we're
we'd
talking,
we'd have to try to get some grant support or something.
right, grants, right.
If it became clear that we needed to, it's not, I mean, it's so far, so good as far as the pipes go.
Yeah.
We've had occasional breaks, but none of them have been in the fiber cement line. They've all been in the plastic ones.
Wow.
And they're usually not in the lines themselves. They're usually in the service lines. There are very, very few leaks that have been actually the distribution pipes in the system. There've been quite a few in the service lines, the ones that go from the main to the houses.
Okay.
For whatever reason. And those are at the customer expense, so they haven't been expense for the district. So, so that's that. Then there was the solar array and the possibility of acquiring that. And the hang up there was Jim Hollihan made inquiries and discovered that, well, we asked Renovus, what would they charge as an annual basis for monitoring and maintaining the array? And they said, well, for $10,000 or $15,000 a year.
Yes.
Which was, when we're generating $16,000 worth of electricity with it. So it's like, it kind of takes all the fun out of acquiring it if you do that. So Jim has got, he's going to ask, he's got somebody he knows who might be willing to do it. Including, what was his name? Dave,
Dave Teddy.
Getty, that's pronounced?
Yeah.
He said he couldn't do the one thing, but he might be able to do that, as on a contractual basis.
Right.
So that's something he's going to look into.
Okay. I sent an email out to everyone, piggybacked on your email. I talked about the longevity of the solar arrays.
Mm-hmm.
And it's significant. I mean, it's not like we're talking about them breaking down after 50 years even. These things are amazing how they.
Yeah, they got
stand
a
up.
slow decline.
Right, and it's minimal, the amount that they go down. The other thing is the inverters, which is what Jim brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, their longevity is also significant. I can't remember specifically, I'd have to look up the old emails to see but it's online. So the numbers were different than what Jim was talking about. So I felt reinforced by that, what I found online. So I say to the board members, please look it up for yourself, how long solar arrays last, what the history of these things are, and how long inverters last. So to get a sense of what we're getting into when we buy this. I mean, the system's 10 years old now. So,
yeah,
but they're supposed to last a lot longer than 10 and significantly more. I can't remember.
And if we bought them out now, I mean, we would recoup. Well, that's the question. How long would it take to recoup? And it depends on how much it costs to maintain.
But isn't our electricity like $60,000-$70,000 a year? Isn't that something I just saw?
Well, that array is only generating $16,000 worth of it. The rest we end up paying on top of that. Yeah. That was the figure Laura came up with. Right? How much per year? Yeah.
I'll pull out my own old documentation about how much, because I was doing this for a long time. Finding out how much they were producing and then,
yeah.
Right? So.
You still have that, that's all on Sunvestment, correct?
Right.
That was still on Sunvestment, right? And Sunvestment was charging us basically exactly the same thing as NYSEG would charge us.
Practically.
Electricity.
Yeah. It had a built-in, charge, which escalated over time. And for a while we were underwater with it. They were charging more than we were paying NYSEG for the same amount of electricity. But at this point, electricity prices have risen and we're quite a bit cheaper with that electricity than what NYSEG would charge.
Let me just look, see what we get.
And I have some stuff that can make your search probably easier. Like all those Sunvestment bills, I can get them to you.
Okay.
So that you have something to look at and compare.
So there's that. And then there's also in the meantime, the highway people That's right. The highway people have, discovered that the camera system is on its, last legs. And,
I think it's already past its last link.
well, like, so to speak, I guess that because a significant component of the control
Right.
has failed, and in order to replace it, you're talking a significant, pretty serious investment. And it might be time to decide to invest in a replacement of the whole thing rather than mess with it.
And the one that they're looking at, Ted, would
But
that,
now, so
Tell it
Jack
there.
has done some homework and gotten quotes for what it would cost to replace it. And that, again, could be, we could use ARPA money if we wanted to address that issue. And you want to share with
Is
me?
it-
a little
is it-
bit?
Sure.
Is this the company that does the court?
Yes, this is
Teledyne?
Teledare.
Yeah.
Teledare is the one that does
Oh,
the
Teledare,
court.
rather.
Yes,
Mhm.
and they have the option that Keith and Jack were looking at. They wanted to get the salt shed on there and the front gate
Yeah,
on
right.
it. And then for the garage, and that total price would be 11,195
from Teledare?
from Teledare.
Just those three things or the whole system?
Yeah,
With
the-
those in it?
The whole system
That's
with
all.
those
So
things
it's
in
added.
it.
We,
Yes, so
including
they
those
would be-
things.
Yes, because, so they would be replacing that whole system that is there, which is actually made up of some really old things. Teledare even had given us a price quote of how they could maybe fix what we already had, but
Yeah.
the stuff is so outdated. They put a note in here, it's a temporary Band-Aid, it's not something that's gonna be, but they would be willing to work with us if we wanted to go that route, but it's not. It's so old,
Just out of
and it-
curiosity,
and
how
it-
much was that?
that's like $1,700.
Mhm.
But that is with some old equipment and some old systems that leave you vulnerable
Mhm.
to
Vulnerable to
the,
what?
well,
well, people can come,
dark spaces.
yeah, people can come, well, but that it can be hacked into. Some of that stuff. I don't understand a lot
Okay,
about it,
how can
Joel,
it be hacked if it's not?
but it
connected?
but it can. All of the security stuff can
So,
be.
the office would like to have a camera that faces the door, our main entry, so they know who's coming in.
We're talking about the highway here.
I know, but it's the same company,
Well, that's true.
so if we could just find out how much it would cost, add a camera.
It can't be
No,
done.
not just that.
It can't be done. Because there's not,
I know they're overwhelmed. I'm just curious.
no, it's just that they're at capacity with the system that they got for the
Right, so-
number of
Right,
cameras.
but that's what I mean. I just want to know what kind of number.
You're thinking maybe we can piggyback on that one,
On
maybe
this,
get a good deal on
Might get a
something
good
over
deal
here
on a
if
single
we
camera.
get this here. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
just
what
want to know if there's,
you're
just to
thinking.
put the one camera in on the doorway.
But as I say, it's
I know
not,
about that. We
not
all
the-
know about that. And we know about the judge's system being taxed, at its max right now.
yeah, we can't add a camera without adding a new
Well, that's what I
unit.
know.
Yeah.
Just want to know.
The software is not.
Doesn't
up to
cost
date.
anything for information.
Can't be. That's what my understanding was. They said the software, it's not, it's too old. So that's part of the
This
problem.
one is for,
No, over there.
over there, yes, right. But we're talking, is if we replace the whole thing, we can have what we want. Which
Yes.
includes the new,
Now,
the new
we've
one
got
for the
another
salt shed.
quote here too from Triple Cities Network.
Yes, yeah.
And that is for just over $10,000. But there's a catch to that one. Through the life of the entire thing,
Yeah, they have an
you
annual
have to
thing, right?
pay $1,000 a year.
Right.
And if you don't pay that licensing fee of $1,000 a year, you can't go back and pull up
Video.
footage and
Right.
video
Yeah.
and that type of thing. It won't give you that unless
just
you
gives
pay
you- it just
that
gives you
$1,000 a year.
Real time, but.
That's right.
But
And
no,
it just give you.
no
Didn't the guy
recording.
from Teledare say we can't even do that now? Can't pull up footage? That's what
I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it's that far gone.
Yeah.
The one we
Yeah,
have
right.
right now, if we have, I know we've been able to look back, but whether it's, it could possibly be that it's down that far.
I thought it was down altogether. I mean, like,
And
it's not
then we
working.
got one from,
there's no.
Sentry Alarm,
Hmm.
which is where this is from. And Sentry Alarm
right.
has for the gate and the salt shed, a total of $32,700.
Wow.
So what with all the research Jack has done and Keith, and they're looking at this,
Yeah,
they would like to be able to, whether this is through ARPA funds or maybe get some
Right.
permission to spend some fund balance money. We are adding a significant amount to the fund balance in 2024. In 2023, it was somewhere around 23, it's gonna be somewhere between 23 and 30,000.
Mhm.
2024, the amount we're gonna be adding to this fund balance is gonna be a nice amount because we were really down in the snow removal. And so I would say it's gonna be over $100,000 from the year before because of that. So there is some money there, but they would really like to be able to get this in before winter because the company can act pretty quickly. So if it, you
which
know,
one are they
if
talking about,
There.
inclined to?
Teledare.
Teledare,
Mhm. That if they, you know, if it would be something you'd consider spending some ARPA funds or maybe even splitting it up.
No yearly.
No yearly
for
thing
this?
on Teledare, no. There is nothing, no yearly thing. Now, of course, if something breaks or if
Right.
something happens, you know, you pay as you kind of go with that, but it's not some licensing fee where you can't get your footage if you don't pay your licensing fee.
with TCNS, it is the same thing, isn't it, in terms of maintenance, they would charge for. if
That's
something
right.
Went wrong, they
That's
charge you
correct,
too, right?
yes. TCNS would charge you
Same way,
same way,
yeah,
yes.
maybe more.
They just want you to have $1,000 licensing fee.
Yeah,
in
on
here.
top of, yeah,
Yes, on top of whatever else is gonna happen. So.
it's kind of like a
we're-
printer, you know, you get the printer cheaper than you have to buy the toner all the time.
Oh, I know. Of course, I'm still using that printer from 17 years ago. Because I'm the type
Because
of
it still
person
works.
when something like that is my lifeline and it's doing great for me,
Mhm.
I leave it alone.
Yeah.
I don't mess with it.
They broke the fix it, right?
But they were kind of asking to see if you guys would consider some ARPA funds or maybe allowing us to use some fund balance money to get this thing going for the $11,000.
50/50.
And to get it moving or even 50/50 or whatever you wanted to do. They just wanted to put it in front of you for consideration.
Yeah,
Can I ask that same question again? Can you please ask? Because I know, ask about the one camera. And they might throw a big number at you. I don't really care. I just want,
Just that there's an issue here.
right, there's an issue
Issue
here,
here,
and I just want to know if there's this, you
can
know,
they do anything?
well, how much would it, because they're already gonna work on these things. So
Right.
what it would cost.
But
we're
like
not
we
talking
said-
about adding a camera unless you're gonna hook it to the highway system.
I don't really care about our opinions. I just
No.
want them to tell me a number.
A number.
Yeah.
And will this system, isn't there something more you'd have to get for this system?
That's what I was
It's already
getting at.
maxed-
No,
It's
yeah,
already
camera.
maxed out.
Right. And they
But you
know,
wanna see maybe if there's a deal here.
Well, the other, I mean, if it's maxed out, you know, can there be a swap? Is there a picture that's not all that?
Yeah,
Is the
that's an interesting point, you
Is
know,
the one more important than the other? I
Right.
mean,
Mhm.
well, I mean,
Is there one
there couldn't be a
camera that
swap, because I
covers
mean,
something
the
that's
highway's
already-
got way more cameras than the town hall does. How many cameras on the system now?
well, anyway,
I'm not sure in the town hall how many.
No, on highway.
On ours,
I think
we have 4, 8, we have like 7 or 8
yeah,
cameras.
we only have 6.
Yeah, exactly, or 6 is the max for the control.
Well, this,
okay, so
Here.
maybe if the one picture is more important than the other, I mean,
right,
maybe we should.
we have
look
to
at the
talk to
set.
Harry.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So if we're gonna have another budget meeting at some
Yeah.
point,
Maybe,
before the next meeting,
Yeah.
which it sounds like we've done.
Yeah.
Is this
we
something
are.
that could be brought up?
We haven't
so that
voted on it yet.
We got a
Might.
little bit more. And then to be able to proceed with this.
mhm. It looks like we're likely to have another meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something to consider for the limited, we got $8,000 on committed, so of the ARPA money at this point,
8,000 for what?
80,000.
About 80,000 uncommitted. I'd have to really sit
Yeah.
down and work
I need
those
to go
numbers.
back
Wasn't it something like that?
We need to go, I'll need to go back through and get a,
Can we have a list for
get
next
a-
meeting?
yeah, we
That'd
can.
be good to have,
We can.
where are we now in the spending?
Yes, I can put
That's
that
what I
together.
remember. Do you remember?
that
have the
along with the
list, but-
stuff that we've been coming up with, I'll
Right.
keep it separate lists so that we can,
Right.
Yeah,
Get a
so it
good
gives it where we
handle on
are, and,
sure.
because we've got
We
know,
need to,
multiple ways of spending that money, and then
well,
some.
some of it doesn't sound like it's gonna be panned.
Well, that's exactly, it. So, I mean, we could spend all of it on the solar array, or we could spend some of it on that and some of it on other things, because, you know,
Well,
that-
in there
that-
was the fire hydrants and, some for this, 30
right,
for this or
which
something.
might not happen,
mean,
and so we,
So,
right, exactly. But, we're coming down to a need to decide
I know,
Yeah.
yeah,
pretty soon here.
so the fire hydrants in the front, if we need to get those figures.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
And otherwise, maybe there's funding, other funding
Stop
for
by.
either one of the,
Yeah.
the access, the handicap access to
Yeah.
buildings, sometimes you can get. funding for that.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
I would
Okay.
like to add that the town needs a new phone system.
Oh, right,
yes, the what?
the phone system. Even though we just changed it,
What's
was
wrong
it
with the
2
phone
years?
system?
It sucks.
They're being,
Company.
there's
Three,
nothing wrong with the phone
3
system. The
years.
problem is that the company has been bought out. And the new company doesn't really want to do it anymore, so they want to charge us a lot more money. And they basically don't want to do it, so they're dumping us, the same way AT&T did before. This is why we went to my town in the first place, because we
Yeah,
had
that was
to.
that probably was kind of bad advice, but
Well, who knew that they were going to be 2 years later, they were going
Well,
to be bought out?
Yeah, they got a
pretty
big
soon
problem
we
with
knew
it.
that they weren't servicing, there were some things, but anyway.
Yeah,
Do we have any idea? of
Mariah's,
cost?
Mariah can do
Mariah's
some-
looking into it and has some. numbers
Yes.
there.
I
Yeah,
have
she-
quotes. It might be, yeah, Ring Central, which Mitel is migrating us to, is about $1,500 more a year than TCNS quote.
and we have to get new phones regardless.
Yeah, all of them say new phones. And I've got brand new phone, well, they're not new, but these Mitel phones still in the box,
Unused.
unopened.
Yeah.
Unused, correct.
So that's.
So if
cool.
anybody would like to manage this project, I would be happy to hand it over.
Anybody up for that?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Anyway, that's something we also need to decide pretty soon, because the cutoff at the end of the year.
Wait, it had,
We should Decide within.
Yeah, so I'm thinking,
does that mean managing?
for the next
means
meeting.
Making appointments, getting equipment set up, getting, timing and all of that?
It's just a commitment, I think you need to have.
Well, for ARPA, if you're gonna
Yeah.
use ARPA money,
Right.
but in terms of the phone system itself, we only have till the end of the year, kind of like AT&T, they say, we're gonna cut you off after December 31st.
What are other towns doing?
That's a good question. And Mariah, did you look into what other towns are doing?
No, I haven't looked at other towns. If somebody would like to take this on, that would be great. I mean, I can try and fit it in.
Come by and talk to you, right?
Right.
And find out what's involved and what you got so far.
Very good.
So I'll come down and talk to you
Yeah, okay.
and see what we can wind up. Thanks. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. It's a timing issue.
Yep, gotcha.
The same thing that happened with the previous clerk when she had to deal with it. Okay, where are we? Proposal to create a regulatory review committee. We have, yeah, we talked about this last time, but,
Yeah.
but I worked something up. Was it something, I think it's something on the table. To just put it on, I don't know, 4 o'clock or something, it's not something you probably saw.
Okay.
Did you?
I haven't seen
You think? No.
it. I have not seen
So this is just to try to give, see whether let's get something to bounce off of. So we talked about it, I propose that we have it, and I hope Greg concurs, because we talked about it earlier today and sometime last week as well, but we didn't have time to talk about it before, after I've got more thoughts. But what we're talking about is that group to review basically zoning and subregs changes. Stuff that we've identified as wanting
Things that are-
fixing,
Especially things that. have
things that
been
want
identified.
fixing and issues that are embedded in those two things that
Right.
ought to be addressed. Rather than postponing them to an indefinite future while we look at the comprehensive plan first. But both Greg and I came away from the planning conference with the sense that incremental progress is not a bad thing, you know. And
So we have some low lying fruits or,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, you know, but dealing with one bit at a time, you know, draws less fire, and it can be the more effective way to accomplish things than
Right,
trying to do a global change.
so we just need a list.
I think that'd be part of the review committee's first task.
Right.
Is, you know, I created a list last fall, and I know that some of you had created your own lists. I think it's just taking what we've had so far and just organizing them into things that are easier to work on. I mean, the subdivision regulations have been kicked down the road for a few years now to work on, and that'll be a major undertaking. So I wouldn't consider that low hanging fruit, but
I wouldn't either,
but there's some other things
Yeah.
in the zoning that could just be amended.
and you know, the committee can come back to this group, who is ultimately responsible, and say, here's what we propose to work on.
How quickly can they do that?
It really depends on the amendment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it might be,
right. Some things are easy and some things not so much.
yeah.
Oh, we're back to the easy stuff. How fast do you do the easy stuff?
So if you, an example, just look at this past year when we amended the Hamlet neighborhood zone district to allow freestanding signs. That took
So you're gonna make a
That's
list?
3-4 months. I mean, it took a while to get
Run it
through,
the middle.
you know, massage out with the board, do seeker, do public hearing, get it to
public
attorney review,
feedback.
public feedback. It does take a few times, and, you know, when I spoke to some counterparts, they said they've had a running list for years,
Yeah.
but they usually knock off one thing in a year.
Yeah.
They just do one thing in a year, and they do an amendment once per year to just kind of clean some next thing on the list. Hopefully, it's not just one in a year, maybe we can do a couple or three, but I wouldn't say it's a massive amount of changes. I mean, that would completely eat up my time to prepare everything for the board.
Right. We're not I'm looking for a mechanism for dealing with the issue so that we don't just back burner them indefinitely.
Right. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to have the chair be the town planner? Yeah, it would actually.
I'm fine with it either way. How Joel's proposed it for him to be the chair, I'm fine with that. And then, you know, staff just being staff.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm proposing it is because, you know, this group is the decision-making body.
Right.
I think it makes sense to have the chair of the
Well,
board be also the chair of the committee.
well, I'm thinking you're the chair of the board, which is the decision-making part, and then I'm thinking somebody different should be
Yeah.
the one who brings it up to, and say, okay, now
Yeah, that's
make a
good.
decision about this, so,
That
Well,
doesn't.
and I think it might expedite it
I
too.
mean, we have a list, we have a couple of,
Yeah.
we have
Right.
So it
some
doesn't,
lists, so we have probably enough to work on without adding anything to the list.
right,
for a
that's
couple
cool,
years.
that's good.
But-
Yeah. Yeah, but,
So there's
But
not much need to be much leadership going on here, that just make the presentation, right?
Well, I mean, my concern, I think, well, I could probably drum up a few more, we can think about it some more, but, is that the planner, you know,
That's his job.
yeah, it's his job, it's his or her job, and you know, I'm worried about things, you know, not fitting in together or not, you know,
I'm not understanding what you're.
I mean, you
What do
change
you
one
mean?
thing and it impacts, you know, four other things or,
Sure, there's always,
yeah, I don't know.
That's why I think
I
it
have
would be
my
helpful for the
personal-
planner to
be
be
more
there, because he'd be
comfortable
more
with town
likely to
planner.
know that impacts, more likely. Doesn't mean you have to know that.
well,
I mean, our supervisor knows a lot of that stuff, but I don't know if the town planner, our current town planner has enough time to chair an extra meeting.
well, the thing is
I
that the
could-
reality is that you're probably gonna be party to that process either way. I mean, Greg would almost certainly be at the meetings of that group, whether or not he's chairing it.
So
or
that's
not.
my only wonder about this. Otherwise, I like the idea. Of starting to work on this stuff. even if
Just
it is-
productions, I can say. Okay, so you have this group and you have you leading it. Can you get us something to change once, how often?
We already
Every
have
3
that.
months?
But that's,
You already got the list,
in part, it's gonna be a group decision, of the group, what to tackle and what to bring back to the
Well,
board.
I want the planner to be leading that.
Yeah, me too.
That's my own thing. Because I have my own opinion and I have, certain things that I want to see changed now, soon.
Yeah,
But, it might not fit in with the overall picture of where we're headed. I don't know.
I agree.
well, whether or not it does is ours to decide.
At the point at which it reaches town board.
Well, sure, but I mean, what changes to make is, consistent with the comprehensive plan is a decision that we, the town board, make.
Right, and that's what the planner is responsible for, supporting us in doing that.
So I'm
Exactly,
not gonna be
exactly.
chair,
You
but
have to go to the meetings
I wanna
anyway.
participate in the
It
meeting.
would be okay to chair it as well?
I'm fine with chair, yeah,
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
If,
You could, I know you're wedded to it and I know you take the whole process seriously, but some of us, we could fight about having spots on this committee.
Well, I don't think we should, and that's part of this
Well-
proposal. I think anybody on this board
Okay.
who wants to be part of this group should be a part of this
Okay.
group. And I don't think we should say, well, we're only gonna have 2 board members. If
Okay.
all 5 of
I
us
did- I
wanted to be
forgot.
on, I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Because it's ultimately, we are the group, and if it's a committee of the whole, it just gives us another venue for
Okay,
dealing with these issues outside of our regular town board time.
Right.
Which is not
okay.
constructively spent that way.
I forgot that it does
If we have
say
More than
basically.
3,
all
we
of
have
them.
to have them public meetings.
Well, and I think there
Doesn't
should
have
be
to
public
It
meetings.
just has to be
For now, it's-
open. I mean, it
Yeah.
has to,
Right.
Right, I think they should be open and public.
sure.
They-
But that was the other question is, Ted noticed right away is that, as proposed here, it would be a committee of town board, planning board people at the core.
Uh-huh.
And then with and if an issue comes up that is of interest to other planning board members, other town board members, and even BZA members, they could jump in and participate, but they wouldn't be part of the core group. The core group is going to committing to, regularly attend and participate.
Right.
I hate to exclude anybody.
I know.
I mean, that's my
What I was talking
inclination.
about was mechanical, not exclusion. Was talking about how much advance notice we have to put and where so that we can have these meetings that have to be.
I think they'll be regularly scheduled. It's probably going to be a monthly meeting. We may want to choose a date later in the week. So it's not all on Tuesday or Monday.
That was
Wh-
all.
whatever-
It
whatever
hasn't been
works.
long Discussion, I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that was
Yeah.
my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'll be publicized. It'll be on the calendar as, meeting of the
So that
Yeah.
regulatory review
we
committee.
don't have to notify every time.
So
Right.
my concern is, and this is why I would like to see Greg doing this, with the idea that he will push to get a single thing that we're gonna change to us on a regular basis. Do you understand what I'm saying? I said,
yeah, that it's, you're saying that I would just be able to, make timely.
Well, yeah,
He's
he's asking you,
submittals
he's
to-
asking you.
Corral people, because it's, we're talking about a group of people who are very, and have a lot of people, things to say, and they waste a lot of time sometimes, and the idea is to get them. You know, Joel does it enough here, we get them to do this, to get to a single one, so that we can vote on it periodically.
Yeah.
And you're gonna use all your expertise to channel those.
Drive the
energy
process.
and
is what he
say,
said.
okay, wait a minute, we're talking about 6 different things, and we only need to have one. So let's all agree on the one that we have the priority to change first, and then we'll present that one. And then after we've done that once, then you can do it again and again and again, until we get the list, your list apparently, taken care of.
That'll take several years. So
And if you're-
don't assume that. That'll take several
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
But we can get it, we can get a start, and that's what's important.
Yeah,
Right.
The one thing I think to just be aware of though is that having this committee meet on a once per month basis, whether that's in the evening or during the day, probably in the evening.
yeah,
And then having my time being worked, during work hours to channel this. I think it means that we are probably going to put off the update to the comprehensive plan. It might be something where this committee might even be able to help make that decision by at some point next year. But it seems like if the energy is gonna go into this committee, that, right now I've already asked the planning board, and we're gonna be working through for the next few months
yeah,
on
right, yeah.
reviewing the goals.
Right.
They're significant. I know that Paul has a copy here of those, the spreadsheet. It's, front and back, it's 12 pages. And so,
It's huge.
and it was even brought up by the chair of the planning board at this past meeting. She said, we might even want to do this jointly with the town board on a couple of meetings, because there's a lot of goals here that were created long before they even got involved. So there might be some gaps in just institutional knowledge. Have we even done this? Is it somewhere in our town archives we'd have to go and dig for?
Yeah.
I'm just putting all that out there that I'm working in tandem right now to review these goals with the planning board. And I mean, I might be, well, at some point I'll be looping in the town board and even just asking for you all, just because you have those goals, please help us in that review.
That would be fun to do.
It
Yeah,
would be.
I think so. I think it's worthwhile to do.
Yes, and we're kind of, what's the word for, we're easing into a larger project there,
Right.
which
Right.
the revision will be anyway. So that's okay. And in fact, one of the things that this committee could do is look at changing some of the things that go to the planning board, which would free up some time on their part and also on your part for the kind of approvals that are turning out to be rather routine and not a good use of the planning board's time and energy to do. If they weren't doing so many, 1 and 2 lot subdivisions.
Through the history about why that got changed?
There is, and you know it as well as I, that there was a lot of unhappiness on the part of the planning board for a long time because of lots by permit, where things were popping up, and they had no sense of.
It was that, and there were some messes that happened, so
So it's not like it was not, there were, what I regard as good reasons why we went that way.
Right.
But the reality is that.
Streamline it or something.
Exactly.
But that's not, I don't even think is that even on the list, one of the lists?
Well, it may not be yet, but it's certainly legitimate to add to a list because it's come to light in light of how it's gone in the last couple of years.
I don't wanna lose the planner that we have. I'm just thinking, that is a huge, that's a big issue. It's a big issue. We've got at least 4 or 5 sort of low-hanging fruits. I don't want to get lost in the weeds to begin with, especially if this is a new endeavor.
Yeah,
Well,
Well, I would
like to
say-
keep it simple.
yeah, but I would say that's exactly the opposite of getting lost in the weeds. That's a stepping back and saying, what, in the big scheme of things here, could we do to better use our resources, including the planner's time?
Well,
You know,
I'm
if
not.
we, if we
I'm
change,
not-
if we make
we
it,
can
if we
argue
tweak
that.
the rules.
I think there's some smaller things that have been mentioned before.
I mean, there are things,
Useful
there are
to do.
things that
That's what we
residents have
wanna-
brought up that have come out during planning board meetings and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Of things that, wow, that's a silly thing, why did we put that in there? So there, there are quite a few of those. I
Yep,
don't,
there is.
I don't wanna get, I don't wanna jump into,
Eliminating people from
other things.
decision
I
making.
don't, and I know that that's, some of your interests are the
Bigger
bigger
picture.
philosophy and purpose and reason. And I'd like to not do that right now.
Mhm.
Right. And this is where I'm thinking that Greg can be a leader for us to bring us through, taking care of the smaller, easier ones at the outset.
Well,
Well, the group could help him. with that.
yes, and
Right.
And I'm going to say this because the thought that we might free his time up and the planning board's time did not originate with me. It
No,
originated with Greg.
I know, I heard him.
Yeah.
I heard it. That's why I was wondering about the
Well,
history.
for the meeting, the last planning board meeting showed up some things that, maybe they do need to be looked at directly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we have a lot of unhappy people and the answer was, I don't know. And
Yeah.
then we have to come up with it, I know, and here it is.
Yeah.
Well, the irony, I think, was that the people, there's terminology, and I'm gonna write about
Right.
this in my newsletter blurb. Is when people get a letter that says there's a subdivision next door, they think of where I grew up,
Exactly.
where I grew up. I
Yes,
grew up on
yes.
East Hill in Ithaca.
Yeah.
That's a subdivision of 200 similar looking lots,
Exactly.
half
They're
acre
not thinking
lots.
that the neighbor's gonna
Yeah.
sell off.
But they're
a
not
lot.
thinking, so this one resident's comment,
Yeah.
I thought was so apt. She said, why are we here? And somebody just wants to sell off a piece of land to their kin. I thought
Yeah.
it's a relevant question. But it's a town decision, right? It's not
Right.
it's not, other than that. I just wanted to bring up about this review committee. I think it's important. We talked about this, we talked about this ad nauseum now at this point of
Yeah.
just, going back and forth and right, the conference kind of confirmed that this is important. I think just it might collide with the comprehensive, the intention to update the comprehensive plan. They might go well together. I just think that we are gonna be stretched thin. This review committee might aid in some of that goal review too,
Yeah.
that we're doing.
Yeah.
They might, there might be things that get revealed during, both
Mhm,
processes, I think.
Probably.
So, maybe the review committee works for, part of the year and then decides, now we're ready to start working on that plan. I'm concerned that both of them can happen at the same time.
And one of
And
the
I'm-
things you had
Yeah.
said was that you're doing some advanced work on the comprehensive plan. So one of the reasons for putting this now is to maybe get some of these silly things done in the meantime, but not intend to interfere with the comprehensive plan. So this is kind of a temporary committee to do something in the process now. There have been some things that have come up that seem like they should be relatively easy to do.
Mhm.
Nothing is easy.
Right. Yeah.
Easier than some other
Easier, yeah.
things. But I agree. Once you get beyond some of the initial planning stage of the comprehensive plan, this should probably stop, but you'll know,
Right,
you'll have some better ideas of how it fits together.
right.
But I agree, we shouldn't assume that it continues in parallel with the other forever.
Right, and maybe this committee just becomes the comprehensive
Yeah,
plan
that's
update
interesting.
committee, and maybe opening it up then to
I would want
residents.
broad
Right,
participation.
residents, business owners, and the ag community. So,
Good point.
Down the road.
Right.
right, and I think we're still a little bit in the dark on we haven't gone over all those goals yet.
Yeah.
I've just created that spreadsheet. I would,
Impressive.
it would be very, a couple hours of work. But it would greatly help if board members in your spare time, go through and if you notice things that have been done, or you think, what is that? Just make notes alongside them. That would really help, the planning board out and just myself
Did
out.
you email this out?
I did, but I can certainly email it again. Yeah,
Well, I just didn't see.
It's like, I didn't see it either. It was a very recent condition.
last week, but I'll email it again.
Probably, I have.
Yeah.
They probably got it, just, it's buried in the flood.
Usually I try to,
I was gonna say, we've been here for 2.5
legal
hours.
paper and then.
You wanna?
No, why?
Because
I
I can
don't
make a
think
copy of
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, thanks.
So-
So,
budget meeting doesn't count.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
So,
Budget meeting doesn't count.
what?
Can't hear her either.
Budget meeting doesn't count for the 2 hours. That's not part of the.
Oh, right,
I
right.
said that we were here for 2.5 hours. Just
No.
doesn't matter what we're here for.
Who said that?
I'm good. I just like, shut up, baby.
Right. So, I put this out here just because I'd like to see some progress on this. And we don't have to, it doesn't have to look like this, but it just gives it parameters to bounce off of. It sounds like the board would rather have Greg chair it than me chair it. Not my preference, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't live with it. Then
You'd still be part of the.
I definitely want to be
Group, right?
on it, yeah, for sure. Backseat driver instead of a front seat driver.
Maybe,
Shotgun.
maybe shotgun.
Right, yeah, right.
That's what I was thinking.
Uh-huh. Do you, so what do you think about the rest of the parameters though? Does this make sense?
Yeah,
Limiting it to, zoning law and subdivision regulations, other things like the noise law, for instance, which committee kind of
yeah.
hasn't done a whole lot, I don't think. And then having it be, we should poll, town board, planning board to see who's willing to serve.
Yeah.
And then make that a core membership. We can do that between now and the next meeting. I propose monthly, just monthly meetings, and these don't have to be in person.
Right.
Because it's a committee, so it could be Zooms.
Could be during the day,
It could be during the day, depending on who ends up in the group.
right?
So, what works for whoever is willing.
Well, I mean, especially if, adding another nighttime
It's
for
a lot.
Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
it's true.
Probably a drag.
Yeah, it is.
So maybe putting it out to people that, it looks like it
Might be.
might be during the day.
Yeah.
Are there days, do you want me to pull the planning board people,
Yeah,
I'm happy to.
or you want to? See if there are people who are interested that would also be available during the day and maybe a certain day.
mhm.
Cause that, another night meeting is,
Doesn't have to be done now, but provided we have, people, some of the planning board members who might be interested have day jobs.
right,
So, it might,
right.
That's why we ask first.
yes,
You'll
exactly.
get
And many people can actually do it from work
We'll sort it.
with better internet.
And hopefully they're not 3-hour meetings, and somebody could
Maybe only an hour and a half.
maybe do it on the lunch hour or something.
That's what they need to do today.
Yeah.
Well, there's always a possibility, given that they're Zooms, that they'd be more frequent, but that'd be shorter.
I'll just pull.
Yeah.
I'll pull
See
the
what
town
the-
board, pull the planning board, just
Yeah.
see who's available.
Who's interested?
They prefer day. and
Okay.
day.
Yeah. Yeah, okay,
And I
that
can-
makes
and
sense.
I can also meet in the evening, it's not a no-go for me, it's
Uh,
It's just,
just,
yeah. All right,
Okay. Next.
all right, so there's that. So that was, I just wanted to see some progress, I was hoping, and I'm
Cool.
feeling that sounds like
Cool.
support for progress.
Yeah.
Next is the additional budget consideration, so coming back to the budget. We had 3 things we had hoped to do in that 5 to 6 time slot, we got through 2 of them. The third was the clerk considerations with, the the clerk's salary, whether there should be, and I had a discussion this morning with the town supervisor, we had a monthly Zoom, about, how this is being handled by others and, you know, what the pros and cons.
Right.
It's being handled both ways. Some towns have it all in the clerk does everything. That's typically the case in a small town. Which has been our case here, pretty much. Some carve out parts of it, like a tax collector is a separate function and is separately paid. It could be the
Right.
clerk who does it or somebody else who does it.
Yeah.
And, yes, so Laura done some research on this, and I also have, Mark Whitner, and Caroline's also done some research on this, where he looked at, you know, what the compensations is a little bit. Where is that information, Laura? Is that,
Email.
What's that?
did she share it on, did that, something she had to do with it again?
Do you need a copy of it?
I'm just wondering whether I got it already. Oh, yeah, that's this, is that not,
This one.
these two sheets, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
right there, right. Yeah, right.
No, this is information.
Wait a minute, you can't be heard from there.
Right.
I forget.
Who's talking?
Exercise.
Yeah.
Okay. This was just something, and we were talking about this last time, for me to just do, a little bit of research and just scope this out for you. And I got this right off the budgets, right off adopted budgets for 2024.
Mhm.
Okay, there's one that was a 2023, and that was the Newfield one. I couldn't find their 2024 budget up there. But what this does is I just went into each one of these that you see across here is a line item for one of these municipalities or several of these municipalities, what it's called, okay?
Mhm.
So the ones that I looked at, the town clerk, that's exactly what they have for the town clerk. Now that town clerk might do several of these different other things too, under those line items and get that pay as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so that's just how that was put together.
Let me throw in one little piece of information from Mark's analysis. Mark looked at the clerk salaries across municipalities, and he did a linear regression, looking at the correlation between population and compensation, and found a direct linear relationship. The smaller the town, the less they pay the clerk,
Right.
and the less she does, or he does. It's a linear correlation. Fits pretty well.
I don't agree with the less the work bit.
That's correct.
I just don't.
You
What's the
agree
next
with what?
number? I mean, if you've got, 100 people.
That's the reality.
Less
of-
tax.
I know,
bills,
but
And if you have,
If you
you're
have-
still doing taxes, but you're only doing it for 100 people.
You're doing for.
So Ulysses is really big,
Yeah.
What's that?
Ulysses is big.
and so is Groton.
Dryden is huge.
Well, Dryden's a way bigger town.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you
Sorry?
correlate the population, in other words, population served,
We don't.
how much you're paying per resident, if you will.
Right.
It's a pretty linear relationship. The bigger the town, the more work there is and the more you pay, the more the clerk gets paid to do it. Caroline, Danby, Enfield, are almost exactly the same size. So we're good, good comparisons.
And then you guys were looking for a total
Look at the-
also. So what I did is, I totaled them across way down here. So you can see, from the last meeting, you guys were talking about, okay, what's the total amount that is being spent in the town clerk function,
clerk's office, yeah.
whether, for
Right.
for whomever. So I put those totals for those other towns here, and then I made up this one,
Yeah, for us,
okay?
yeah.
Yeah, for the town of Danby, the town clerks, the deputy town clerk, the project assistant, and then the portion that Julia would work preparing the abstracts, which is that portion really is work for the town clerk's
Is
office.
project assistant,
That's
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann,
Marion,
Mhm.
records management.
records
Records
management.
management, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, you could equate that to
could call
records
it records
management on
management.
here, deputies, town clerk. And then this other one for Julia, you could put that in as another deputy.
Right, I was putting in 2024 figures here,
So,
because that's what these are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 24.
so these are just tools that we put together for you guys to take a look at and see. And then, of course, Mariah, like I said, Mariah's the expert at knowing what all those different functions are, so I'll be quiet and let her
Right.
talk. Right.
Laura, I found that the Newfield 2024 was 45,000.
Okay, can I ask another question? 45 through the clerk. Okay, oh, good, you found that.
Is that,
How about
is that
for their-
25 or 24?
2024.
Okay, and how about their deputy town clerk?
No, I didn't go into all those.
Oh, okay, because they've got a deputy and then they got a tax collector.
Yeah, I could have sworn that Mike Al just said that the total for them was 80,000. With all.
45,000. So, thank you, Greg. I'm gonna guess
Huh.
that this one probably went up to maybe
Is that Newfield?
19, so 45, 19, and if that went up to 2. That's like 66,000 if I just. Okay,
Yes. Mm.
if I just guessed maybe at what they would,
Mhm.
the increases from this 2023 thing is. Okay, there's probably something else in there. Does that all make sense what I'm saying, Mariah?
Well, I just want to point out that
Yes, and I'll just let you
So
talk now
the
about
town-
the different things.
the clerk in the town of Dryden is making 79,000 because she does the 29,000 for tax collecting and the town clerking is 44. She has 2 or 3 deputies. I'm not sure they're all represented there. I just want to say, in terms of adding value, as a professional person in the town hall, do I add as much value as, say, the code enforcement officer?
Well, when you're discussing being the face for the public and the person who gets asked enough questions to be directed to the others, there is that important.
Yeah, this is the same for every other town clerk in the county. Though.
Yeah. Well.
Right, so again, with the list that Laura gave you with all the numbers, many town clerks, they have their salary and then they have the tax collecting and the records management.
Right, exactly, right.
And we don't. do
Right,
that.
I believe the town clerk in Van Etten makes 80,000.
Yeah, that's what.
And I
you
think
said.
Van Etten is quite a small town, but it's not in Tompkins County, so we can't. And of course, the town of Ithaca is also much higher paid.
Right, and it's also a much bigger town. We
They have
fall
2
right on the
deputies.
line based on the population. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't and shouldn't have additional functions that are done by the clerk if the clerk has the skills to do them, and by somebody else if the clerk doesn't. The trade-off here is that, it's an elected position. It's not a position that the town board makes or fills, because it's not an appointed position, it's elected. Because it's elected, the qualifications for the office are a resident of the town over 18. Anybody can run for it. The hiring committee is the public, voters. And we may get, it's not quite the luck of the draw, but because we do recruitment, but we never know for sure what we're going to get. And no matter, the skill set will vary. Some different people, although they might be good at one part of the job, are not necessarily going to have the skills to do, say, a website or.
I think more important is that there might very well be a clerk who would want full-time and would want to do the other things, and one that does not. And if there's a way to transfer some of the jobs to some other person, that makes it more flexible for
Right,
whoever has that
absolutely.
position.
Right.
And according to the state regulations, you can have up to 3 deputy.
Yeah.
Are you limited to 3?
Yeah,
I looked it up today.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a limitation. I know we're not limited to 1, but you are limited to 3.
And that's why it's useful to have the budget identify those categories with a separate amount of money on it, as opposed to.
Like we don't
being
have,
all the
what's our amount for tax collecting?
That's why I think.
Would it
we
be
don't-
you have to
Enfield
down.
and Newfield, like around 2,500, right?
Yeah, which I think is way low. I mean, it takes a lot more work than that. I mean, the reason we have a deputy clerk in the first place, you may recall,
Right.
until Carol Sapansky, the clerk was doing it all.
Right,
And then she found she needed help, particularly during tax collection time.
right.
So she hired a part-time helper just for taxes.
Yeah.
And over time, the job expanded and the deputy ended up getting more and more hours, to the point where now it's somebody who's on all year,
Right.
part-time.
And that actually makes it more flexible, because instead of just having that time, you have the same person who knows what's going on, can do various.
Yeah, it makes a lot of
So
sense.
it
The
actually
office can
makes
be
it much
open.
more flexible.
It can be open
Right.
Yeah,
many
yeah,
hours.
that's exactly
with
right.
Different people.
That's exactly right.
So, I mean, in effect, what's happened is that the clerk's job has gotten distributed over 2 people, not just 1. In fact, 3,
Records
Right,
management.
4.
Right.
Which is okay. I mean, it's what, the thing is that, some of these things can be, and others, because we could break it out, and that's the question is. We had talked about, the website management, the newsletter, as well as the tax collecting as being obvious categories. Project management in a different sense, as in what Mariah's just been doing as part of her job, which isn't really part of what the clerk's expected to do. And investigating options for the phone system, for instance, is not something that's in the job description. But, that could be fun. It could be a separate category, project assistant or something. I think that we ought to be doing just that. And the critical question to ask is, how much more money are we willing to add to the clerk's office for doing these things that could be then chunked off if we don't have a clerk who can do them? Or provided by some additional help to the clerk, if it's needed, beyond what's already in the budget.
I think that, well, this is the start of how we figure out what
Yeah.
different kinds of jobs and how many hours it might take to do certain jobs. And then, and the idea is not that we have to, I think, you don't have to put the clerk's salary out of sight for, what we do is have some kind of basic or baseline, I'm not gonna say basic. And then find out what those other jobs
Right.
are.
Right.
And that allows a person to decide which things they might want to do. And it also dictates that you're asking me to do these other jobs and it costs this much more money to
Right.
do these things
That's
that
right.
I mean, if
you're
they're
just
doing,
throwing in.
then you should, yeah.
Yes, right.
And,
Right.
but, say things like tax collecting, it would be. Does clerk hire or the town board would hire a tax collector?
It depends on where you put it. I mean, it could be, if we put it in the clerk's budget, I mean, it makes sense to me if that it'd be an employee of the clerk, i.e. a deputy clerk, that would help with the tax collecting if it's not gonna be the clerk herself doing it. That's the way we're doing it now.
That's what we're doing now. And one benefit
know,
of
I
having,
know.
one benefit of saying, as opposed to hiring somebody to do tax, is there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to be done. It would be helpful to have an option so that another person could do this and then do this and this and this and make it more cost effective in the long run, instead of having it spread out all in pieces. That's an option. if we put them in these separate categories.
Like I just sat here and just came up with a hypothetical thing, just something to think about.
Yeah,
Let's say you decided, yeah, we could go, leave the 46,699. And then come up with some more categories that we can put right in the budget. Say you decided, okay, 15,000 would be, say you decided on an amount of 15,000 you'd want to raise things by. You could make a category, now a tax collector gets 6,000. The website maintenance, which Mariah does right now and
yeah.
everything, a website, $5,000. The information aid, $1,000, because she always gets so many emails in and she's got to provide all this information to all these people and these foils and all that. And then you could say like, newsletter, $3,000.
Whatever it is.
I'm just coming up with.
No,
stuff.
no, that's
Give
what
me
I
an
was
example.
actually. The newsletter's already been budgeted at 10,000, so you can put it down for 10,000.
But that's for all the expenses, the postage and all that.
No,
no.
10,000. That's it. The budget is 25,000.
And we've already
50,000 is the rest.
Gotcha. So we've already got that.
10,000, yes.
Something.
She's
That
just
could
giving
be-
us examples.
Yeah,
of-
just kind of a little
kinds of
example.
things that could be not dollar.
She put a
amount.
dollar amount on it.
She just said,
Yeah,
for
3,000.
example,
For example. Yeah,
for
we could do that.
example.
So you could say that one, $10,000, or
Right.
however you want to break out this stuff.
Right.
If you want to increase these amounts in the town clerk categories.
Right.
I mean, some of it could be layout, some of it can be printing and labeling. I mean, there's all kinds of.
If you wanted to
ways
break
that
it
you
down, break it
wanna-
down more. Yeah.
They don't.
But
break it
I have
down.
one question.
No, yeah.
How do we keep the hours or the salary or whatever right enough that the person still gets benefits?
And I know what, and I didn't prepare that for tonight because I knew this was gonna be a big thing, you know, just.
These are all
this
part
one.
timers that we're adding on.
Yeah, and then, but.
These are all
when you're talking
hourly
about
people.
benefits, if you want to do benefits, for any of this stuff.
It's actually 32
One of
hours.
one of the things that we have to do is change the policy in the town. Change the policy in our manual.
Well, personally, I think
Because it's
that,
the people who qualify for benefits, according to that manual, I'll go back through and reread it because it was a long time ago, would be people who worked at least 30 hours.
30 hours.
30.
And then there's 30 hours, they would get benefits. They would get 75% of the benefits that somebody else got working 40 hours.
that's my kind
Yeah,
of
that was
question.
the
That's all I
question.
was asking. I'm not suggesting anything. I just wanted
So
to know
if a
that.
person wanted benefits, technically a person could decide they want benefits or something and work one of these jobs just to pay for their health insurance. Yeah.
By the way, why don't we ask the town clerk to come up with a
Exactly.
proposal?
Yeah.
Well, we,
How she would like to have
They did.
work
we did.
divided, and to come up with, like town clerk does this, and this, and this. deputy
That,
clerk
we
does this,
did.
and this.
That's what happened at the last meeting.
And I said it in,
Ah.
she's the expert. She knows
Right.
what goes on in that office, so she can come up with a pretty good list.
And
of
we
how she
can,
thinks it should be split up.
we can adjust this based on this input. She can then take that and.
Right, she
adjust
could
it
take
better.
that and talk about salaries.
Mhm.
See what she thinks each one of these time-wise. Maybe she spends more time on a website, doing that website stuff than we even know.
Right, that's right. We don't
You
know.
know, and it could be, and then the tax collections, so,
Nobody knows better than the clerk which time.
that's right.
Doing
How
that.
much is spent on all that stuff.
So,
Are you hearing okay, Mariah? When Laura's
Yeah,
talking?
it's all good, it's all good. So
Okay.
I did, request, put some tax collecting money in there and, other things. For me personally, it's not really about the money. I really like this job. I like doing everything I do. I just am working full-time. I'd really like to not work full-time. So I get that you want to kind of compartmentalize a lot of tasks and to recruit an excellent town clerk. I want to support you in that 100%. Yeah, and it is really great having a deputy who knows the office super well. And so that I can, leave at 2 o'clock. I'm trying to leave at 2 o'clock now. I get yelled at because I'm still here at 4:30. But, I'm just having a hard time knowing what to stop doing. So, I'm working on that, and I will, really, I'm just working on having better boundaries and having more pushback. Because I'm not, this isn't a money grab for me. I just don't want to work full time, and that's what's happening. Everything that's happening here is leading to full-time employment. And
So what
I'm
I'm
just saying,
asking
when,
Can you let her finish, please?
you're right, I think she sounded like she pretty
No,
much
she was
said,
still talking.
well,
w-
yeah.
so, in summary, I just want you to, recruit a really good town clerk, and I would think that that person should work full-time. It's a full-time job. But you guys do, you guys do you, if you,
Well, I'm
you know,
suggesting that you in the clerk's office know better than we do. That you know how much time it takes for each of these categories. And how that should be divided up between town clerk, deputy town clerk, tax collector, and whether some of those things overlap.
Do you have
well,
some kind of-
I,
Sorry, do you have some kind
Well,
of an
I'm-
idea, Mariah, about which tasks you think that if you were to have somebody else do, could free up that time for you?
well, certainly the tax collecting is
Yeah.
is very intense, and includes Saturday. I mean, just opening the
Yeah.
mail during January is work. So yeah, I would love to have like you talked about the children in the youth program. I would love to, wouldn't it be nice if somebody could just open the mail and stamp, write down everything that they need to write down and stamp them in. That's, that doesn't take a lot of skills, but there's a lot of that going on in January. So there's tax collecting, there's website, and then there's project management. And I think Joel is often asking me to get documents out. There's certainly some documents that are regular clerk type documents, but like the Cartman easement, just last week probably took me 4 or 5 hours to make modifications to the document, get everything signed by everybody, and get that out physically to the 2 people who needed it to be mailed to, and then follow up with emails so that they had all the documents that they needed. Yeah, it was probably 4 or 5 hours, and I don't think that maybe I should have been involved in the Cartman easement. So my providing more pushback is really what I'm focusing on. That might make it uncomfortable for you. I love doing this stuff, but I don't have time to do the minutes.
Which is a pretty important part of the job.
Exactly. And I want to take time and do the minutes so that, people don't complain.
This year, I mean, a lot of things will change when the documents are accessible with codifying and the planner
Somebody still has to do that.
stuff and the code stuff, won't it?
About a year and a half.
Yeah, so it will
Okay, so
change.
that's,
Not
yes,
now.
and that is a
She'd still
project
have
that we
to
are
do the work.
that's a project that we're working on,
Change
and
the
that Blake has
timing.
been working for the last month on converting all the current building permits and typing them into an Excel spreadsheet so that they can be imported into the new system. We're going to be meeting weekly with a cloud permit. This is a project. This is,
Okay.
it doesn't get done by itself. There's going to be a lot
I
of,
wasn't suggesting anything like that. I was thinking that when we talk about the clerk job, there will be other things that have to be done with that stuff once we have it done and people understand what those other things are. It certainly isn't a thing about this job now or for the next 2 years. It's looking at the long-term ideas of what, you know, so it is important now.
Yeah.
These things have to get done, and if you wanted to be able to go home at 2, and we have somebody now, that would be a different kind of thing. It might not be 2 years from now that the person would have to do that. That's what I'm not.
You're talking about the possibility of hiring temporary help, basically.
Right, temporary help, right. But Mariah also wants to have a really good handle on making sure that the things are done right, which is really important to Mariah.
Yeah.
Yes, in the town.
I mean, technically down the road, I know it's a brand new person, but wouldn't the secretary to the CAC be taking care of CAC documents?
Not necessarily.
Well, that was a discussion,
that's-
you recall, when we hired the secretary, and there was some pushback to my suggestion that it could be more than just a minute taker.
Yeah.
I certainly imagine that kind of thing that Mariah did for the
Right.
cart management being done by the secretary of the Conservation Advisory Council, because it's part of what the Conservation Advisory Council does in negotiating and implementing our easement program.
Right.
Can I just add, I think as planner, I am the staff support to the CAC, so probably all those hours that Mariah, I think that you put in on that, those probably just should have been on me to do that. So that's just,
But
yeah,
it's not,
I know.
but it's not a given that you would be the staff support for the CAC. You know, you're willing and able, but,
Well, I think it is, yeah, I mean, it is part of the role. I mean, I'm supposed to be staff of the CAC, so,
Yeah, right.
yeah, just helping to shepherd those easements through and,
Huh.
you know, the work. But I think where it might get confusing is that the records management, you know, piece of it too.
you know, when you, if properly, and with the, or at least in terms of assignment of roles, you know, getting the easement to the point where it's filed is our responsibility as CAC. And then at that point, it becomes a record that the clerk takes over and, you know, puts in the system and, you know, keeps tabs on. The clerk could be responsible for filing, you know, as part of that process, but you already volunteered to do that.
Right, yeah, I'm taking it down to the county.
Yeah.
And I think, again, we need to be clear that there's a short-term and a long-term problem. You don't want to spend a lot of time short-term. So next year, we will need some extra.
It's just an
support.
example. It's an example of things that
Right,
maybe
and you don't want
shouldn't
to,
have to be doing.
right, and you don't want to build it into salary that someone's going to be spending, you know, 60 hours instead of 40 hours or 40 hours instead of 30 hours.
Needs to be put in
in
somebody
order-
else's salary.
Well, exactly. You know, unless you're going to pay extra for it.
Right.
The
So-
amount of time that you spend on doing things with the website, Mariah,
Mhm.
is that like another significant category? Or you do it so
Pretty big,
easily, you know?
absolutely. There's not
It's a
only
big-
web maintenance, but yeah, just about every day, we're putting something new on the website, that's for sure. And we had a big project this summer with the website because the transformation from Zoho to this new software, we had to learn new software, learn how to figure out how to put the, you know, documents on there so people could print them. That was a lot of hours.
Yeah.
So
if-
that's easing up. So yeah, it's, you know, once somebody's trained, it's not too hard to put documents on the website.
I remember
you know,
one time we had a website, that was we had a person that did things in the
Yeah.
website, so like when the say the agenda was done, or anything that you wanted to put up on that
You already
website,
put this up.
they would just, like
Right.
Pamela would just send this all to them, and then he would put everything up on the website.
Yeah, reduce the
But
format.
now I know there's a lot on the website, and there's a lot of different things. Does that sound like a practicable thing? Or should it be something that the town clerk does? Or could it be a position where somebody's right in the office, X number of hours a day or whatever, just putting stuff up there and I mean, I don't know what it really entails, so I'm just trying to get the
What we used to do.
reality of what type of a job would be good part-time, would be good for the accessibility of being able to accomplish whatever it needs to be done.
We
We've
used to
talked
like
about,
hire a subcontractor.
we've talked about this
For
somewhat.
the-
I mean, Mariah feels, and I agree, that this is something that integrates well with what she does.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense if the clerk has the skill to have it be something that the clerk does. But
And that's gonna change every time you elect a new clerk.
well, that's exactly right. So that's why I think it makes sense to have it be a category,
Separate.
you know,
Yes.
for which this
Could
clerk,
be added.
for which this clerk could be paid.
Right.
You know, so that would essentially increase her compensation because she's going to be doing it, but the next clerk might not.
Right.
How much time?
I
does it
really
take?
don't. I don't see a clerk not dealing with the web.
Right.
I mean,
Gotcha.
documents are on the web, the
Yeah.
minutes are on the
Meetings.
web, the agendas are on the web. We've got everything in Laserfiche. The public has access to Laserfiche. This is part of records, it's a part of records management.
Gotcha.
So then a new clerk has to be told that, and has to get.
Well, see, the thing is, we can't
I know.
guarantee.
We can only ask for over 18.
Yeah,
But we can put down what the requirements are, and we can let people know, and when we do campaigning,
right.
we can let people know.
And when
that
we're
as
recruiting
well.
as well.
And when we
Right.
recruit.
I hear you, I'm just.
I don't think we can do that. That's
Oh,
my personal.
we
Well,
can
sure we
certainly
can.
It's an elected position.
We
Somebody
can
doesn't have to have
recruit
those
people.
skills.
We can recruit and we can help elect people.
Well,
They're good.
Recruitment.
That's what our
doesn't
job
always
is.
work out.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. I mean, we are not the hiring committee.
No, we're not the hire, we don't hire whoever it is.
Right.
And it depends on the political will.
But if we have it separated out and the person who becomes town clerk
Right.
is not able to do that, then we can, then we could hire somebody
Sure.
to do for a certain amount of money.
Like this, like for instance, I'm just looking to say Town of Groton, okay? Town of Groton has an amount for
Right.
website clerk
Right,
for 2264,
right.
but yet you look at Town of Dryden,
I know.
and they've got 2 records management people, so
Yeah.
probably one of those is for working on that website, and
Well,
that's like
probably
four
both
to-
6.
Or one of the
Or
deputies.
both,
Probably both.
that's right, and those the deputies and them. So
Yeah,
coming up with an amount that you think would be the right amount to come, practicable, could you find somebody from the outside for $5,000?
Would you want to? No.
For
Would you have to? Maybe.
$6,000 to take over? Or do you think, is it worth, you think $6,000 would be enough for compensating the town clerk in addition to doing everything on the web? Or is it 4,000?
Yeah, but then we're gonna go back away from, this town clerk would like to work fewer hours. So there's always gonna be,
Yeah,
you're gonna
there's
have to
always
do
something in there.
But she likes to do this part. I mean, it's what she wants to do.
I think the other thing
She
is
does
when you
like
look
it.
at,
Does, she's
if
good.
you're looking
Yes,
at putting
it
it
really
for a
is.
certain amount of money, that's fine, but you don't also have to think about it as a person doing it for that amount of money, because it could be a deputy clerk that combines several things
Right,
together.
yes.
Because Cindy does do some things on the website as well, I know.
Yes, yeah, but then if it does come up to that point where you want somebody that you're hiring that just does website.
Then you
then
got.
You got
I
a
mean,
dollar
yeah.
written in there that you gotta.
I mean, we had people that applied for the CAC secretary job that would have those skills. But then how do you integrate them
How do you
into the
integrate
office?
Well, right.
into the
So,
office?
I mean,
And
you
it's
know,
like
so
things
one
have
way
to
to
be put
integrate,
on at different times of the day or
Right.
when there's meetings or, it's a
one way to
little-
integrate is, I mean, if it's a clerk function, a clerk office
Why are
function.
you shaking your head?
I missed something, I lost track of the sense of what was going on.
Okay.
That's why I'm confused.
What I was thinking, if it's a clerk office function, if we had a clerk who didn't have the skills, got elected to the office, doesn't mean that the deputy clerk couldn't be doing it.
Right.
And then if it's pulled
Well,
out as a
that clerk
separate,
would
if
hire
it's pulled out as a certain amount, then it could be added to the deputy clerk line,
Right.
and serve that way.
Okay, all this speculation, right?
Yeah.
So really what we have to do, or have Mariah do, is make a list of the characteristics of the job that's gonna be mutable,
Mhm.
that we're gonna change
Exactly, yes.
based on who gets elected. And we can't sort that out now.
And then
That's
to
right.
come up with a dollar amount. that
But we
you
do
would
have to-
file
But we need the
in
list
total
first and
that
then
will
we can put
intru-
that
that
on
will
there.
We need the list first.
I need the list first.
Yeah.
And Mariah is working on that, so she. actually
Right, and we
has-
don't actually have to have it all nailed down. But what we do need is enough, enough money in the budget to allow us to work it out
Right.
in the next few
And we
months.
can put it in a line item the same way we put stuff in the line item for that. Last year we put 25,000 for website and other
Right.
support. That's what we call it,
Yeah.
website and other support. If you had a dollar amount that you wanted to put in this budget, because we do have to pass it by in another couple of weeks.
Right.
You know, and say, all right, we're willing to go an extra 15,000 or
Whatever.
whatever,
So
to
what's the
separate
number?
some of this stuff out or whatever. We can stick it in that line. We can have plenty of time
Right.
to figure it out,
Mhm.
what you want to do.
So it's more like what the town clerk's office
Exactly,
costs.
right.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so you can say, yeah, we want to throw another 15,000 in there. And it might very well be some things that Mariah's doing.
Right,
where she
exactly.
Gets some more,
Right, exactly.
you know, some of those items
So
that
we
she
can work
wants.
that out, but
Then she might find something she wants to, you know,
Right,
and get rid of and has time to think about the hours. So if you just come up with a dollar amount, we can get that in the budget, and we'll know what we're doing. And I do want to tell you that this budget that you have right now, this budget that we amended with a couple of things we added. The only thing different about this, we put in an extra $1,500 for some dental insurance for one of our members. I didn't put
Which
his,
you
I
forgot
didn't
to
put
put
his,
included.
I forgot to put Joel's dental insurance in there for the 1,500. And then also that maximum, that option 3 for the youth services.
option 2, yeah.
Option 2, that's right, option 2, and that was an additional $4,043.
Yeah.
So this budget represents, if you take a look at your tax,
It's in the,
tax levy analysis,
which page is
like
that?
there's the cover, then there's the summary, then the tax. This is over the tax levy limit right now by $1,205. And then as you're thinking about how much you would want to increase that line item and where it would go, I can tell you that, look on the actual summary now. This budget is put together right now using $20,000 of fund balance for the general fund. You know how we always determine that at the
Yeah, yeah.
end?
Right,
So that we know how much we want to go into that for, if you want to keep it under the tax cap or whatever you want to do, and 30,000 in the highway.
Right.
that
And
hasn't
I-
changed, right?
and-
That's the same as in the previous version.
Yes, that's not changed, it's not changed.
So it just
I just
increases the
picked
amount
20
raised by
30.
taxes.
And put that in there to keep you under the tax cap on that first one, okay? And now it's a little bit over the tax cap, and then with this endeavor, you
Very
didn't
substantial.
change those amounts, it would push you over quite a bit further. But I can tell you, you're doing really well in, in 2024, we're gonna have a large amount added to our fund balances.
What
You're gonna
about
probably be about 50,000 in the general fund alone. There's gonna be at least, almost 100,000 in the highway.
What about interest on the money that's on the fund balance? We don't have an interest in account. Now, I know that
Yes, we
West
don't, and
Danby
I've
Water
gotta put
District
that
just
in
put
there.
it in.
Yes, I've gotta put that in here still.
Wait,
What we
the,
received so far.
right,
hasn't
the
went
water
up.
district committee met last week
Yes.
and, you know, played with the budget. The bottom line is that by adding
Substantial amount.
interest income,
I don't mean to put-
kind of
It's a-
compensated for the fact they were short on the
Put a
revenue
substantial amount in there.
from
Huh.
water.
This program.
But we're
that
counting
gonna
on
get involved.
investing the money at,
That's an excellent.
I'm guessing 4%. If we come up short, we still have the fund balance we can fall back on.
That's
but-
right, you know, we can go a lot higher with our interest as we're trying to get that around, find out what our fees are gonna be when we have X amount taken out of those accounts. Cause those fees can add up in these and then the interest, but we can, yeah, I would say with the amounts that we have here, we could probably offset this,
Increase
increase.
If we better invest in
with interest.
what do they call it?
What's the name of that group?
I'm trying to think of, idle funds, think of it, because.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yes, and yes, investment,
Yeah.
we can make it. No, but that's our focus, even though that's going down.
Well, the trouble is it's sinking daily, but, you know, the Fed did say they're gonna slow walk the descent, so, you know, I'm hoping we can still average about 4% for the year, 2025. It may not be a little bit short, but
Cap, we could use that.
Mhm.
We could put that in that interest if you wanted to stay under the tax cap.
Well-
This other 4,000.
Mhm.
We could do that. And if you don't make it,
if we're guessing,
you don't make it, but you know what?
You're guessing on
You
every.
probably won't be using some of these expenditures either. That's the way it happens every year.
Yeah.
So, you know, the way that it goes, you may not use all the contingency, you may not use all the, you know.
We've been lucky.
Different amounts.
although I do think it's dangerous to add a permanent addition, which, you know, salaries are. It's not a one-off, and funding it with fund balance, or with interest income either for that matter, because.
You're talking about the clerk's office again?
Talking about whatever, you know, in this case, I am talking about the clerk's office, but,
So
what I'm saying is that if we're gonna increase compensation, which is not a one-off, but in every year, expense, unless we see it as a temporary thing, we ought to be funding it with taxes raised and not by savings.
The interest on the
nice
savings
to-
should be used
Well, yeah, of
to
course it should.
offset tax increasing, and that's what we haven't used yet. So that's what we're talking about, interest.
And we got amounts though that we've added back to the fund balance, even though we used fund balance to balance our budget. And
Yes.
use it, we still added back
Right.
in, and we didn't even touch that. We still added back in. So we've got some for some of the years that have gone by, that's there that we could use without really looking at a long span of really going down.
Right.
Well, you'll be looking at raising taxes more later, if the interest rates come,
Maybe,
keep sinking.
but now we don't have anything in there. We're not talking about looking at
making a whole lot.
humongous amount. We're talking about putting something in there so that we will always have interest. Interest doesn't go to zero.
And we also went down on our mortgage tax, which
Yeah, we
that
did.
will probably regain itself.
Well, that's true,
We
you know.
went
it-
down on mortgage tax
market
in the
activity
budget to be
will-
conservative,
That's true.
but in another year, that will probably make up for itself. We'll track that to see how much we've got. That's a nice $10,000 offset in there too.
That's true. I do expect that will bounce back. You know, going forward.
Where we can safely budget for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you could still be looking at, as you feel, staying under the tax cap, if that's what you truly feel. You can go over a little, you can go over a little lower, you know, wherever you wanna.
I'm fine now, just stay another half hour. with me.
You just,
Yeah, I'm good now.
Well, yeah.
Well,
You
if,
guys want, anything you wanna talk about, good, let's keep going.
well, we are
We're just
past
repeating the
2
same thing.
hours.
So what,
So we are past 2 hours.
We've
We should
repeated things.
either vote to go a little bit longer, which I think we ought to do. And we'll give ourselves another, I don't know, 10 minutes.
Okay.
No, I need another one.
some of these questions, I see you're better not.
It's been moved and seconded that we go another.
Maybe I see.
Uh,
Sorry, I'm
Leslie,
sorry. The
Can you-
microphone can only pick up one person at a time.
At a time, yeah, she's talking over.
Please do not talk over.
And a motion has been made and seconded to extend the meeting by 10 minutes.
And who
Yeah.
seconded that? Hanson?
Leslie did,
Thank you.
and we need to vote.
Connors?
Yes.
Hanson?
Oh, yeah.
Hunter?
Reluctantly.
Woodward?
We repeated.
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes,
Thank you.
So in this 10 minutes, we need to decide whether we want to meet again to talk about this,
Yes.
Yes.
and whether that's a committee meeting that could be done by Zoom sometime in the morning or whatever. Are we talking an in-person gathering to do this deliberation?
Morning sounds good.
Depends on what one.
It does depend on what the morning. I'm okay with that if you want, if you insist on doing it in person as opposed to doing it as a committee meeting by
I
Zoom.
didn't hear anybody say any insisting on anything.
Committee meeting?
Or committee of the whole, there's sometimes the county legislature does it, we can't wait, It'd be a meeting of the whole as a budget deliberating committee. We're not gonna be passing any legislation or anything, we're just gonna be coming to agreement about what to propose to the public.
Extra meeting.
But we have to do it, we have to get together to do it one way or another. When? We don't have to, mind you, we could, if we could agree to put like $15,000 more in the
I have
budget.
a whole lot of questions here. On a lot of
That's right, you had a
details.
bunch of questions that hadn't been
Yes, I
addressed
do.
yet.
Now
Okay.
I've touched.
Okay, so that's reason enough to have another gathering anyway.
Yeah.
So when would you like to do it?
My endurance is better in the morning.
Yeah, I'm all for like 10 o'clock in the morning would be good.
10 o'clock, yeah, sounds good.
What day?
What day? Anybody?
Tomorrow, Wednesday?
Yeah, tomorrow, or Wednesday.
Well, shouldn't we give Mariah some
Yeah,
time
there's
to
time
come
for
up with
that.
her list?
Okay, that's
You
true.
asked her for something, so we can't.
In the
expect
event that she
overnight.
can put something like that together quickly, no pressure, Mariah, I'm not trying to say you have to get this all
Pressure.
done immediately, but.
Mhm.
Thursday?
A list of what?
Yeah, things you could essentially chunk off, or that could be added to, depending on how you look at it. The basic clerk's position job,
What's the date on Thursday?
Thursday's the 24th.
But.
Oh, there's a meeting at 10 o'clock on Thursday. That's the Safe
What
Streets
about
for All,
Right, I was gonna say, that's a joint, it's.
to which we're all invited, by the
Yeah,
way.
you're all invited to this, Tompkins County Joint Safety Action Plan, multi-jurisdictional meeting. You don't have to join.
Safety law.
That's
How about the
it.
25th?
25th is Friday, it's okay.
I could do a Friday.
Friday, 10 o'clock,
10 o'clock on Friday?
10 o'clock. And
Friday the 25th.
October 25th.
And you want it in
The,
person? Can we do it by Zoom or do we have to do it in person?
the staff has a cloud permit meeting on at 11,
Oh,
so
as
10 o'clock would work,
long as we don't go
But
for
we'd have
now.
correct.
In the meantime,
gotta-
you guys want me to prepare a budget for you, where I plug in 15,000 in there, figure the tax rate. Put in some amounts, how we could make that up with our interest. And
Yeah,
use,
and don't print another 25 pages for everybody.
we have that.
I don't mind it, but can you like make the changes a different color?
I'll see what I'm able to do. And, yeah, I don't have to give you another whole package. I'll wait to give you the final adopted budget in the next.
Back sheeting.
Yeah, I'll use a highlighter.
Like that.
Yeah, I'll use a highlighter.
Yeah.
To show you what I changed.
And back sheeting.
Print both sides. Print both sides.
I mean, I could meet at 9 or 9:30.
Well, I could,
I mean-
if we zoomed, it would be easier.
I'd rather come in person.
Yeah, I think it's better.
Just,
All right. You want to go 9:30 then, so we're not tight to the 11 o'clock?
Yeah, I mean, 10 to me is getting to be midday.
Well, not for me, it's about we usually sit down
So
for
this
breakfast.
Friday at 9:30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
what?
9:30.
9:30.
9:30.
What day is it?
It is Friday, October 25th. right?
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind that, in order to get set up the Zoom, I mean, I have to get here like,
It's a public
15 minutes
meeting.
early.
This is a public meeting.
It's just people.
It is, I
Yes,
mean,
yes, it
people
has to
can,
be.
people can attend and watch if they want to, there's not gonna be any privilege of the floor, it's a committee meeting,
Right.
but we'll put it on the calendar.
but we have to give notice about it too.
Yeah. Well, that's time enough. I mean, there's nothing to be putting it
I
on
mean,
the
it's a budget
calendar,
workshop.
notice,
I don't,
yeah,
it's not a meeting where we're gonna be making any decisions.
right, well,
But three.
It's a
members-
discussion, so people
Three
need
members
to
of
be
the
able
board
to
here, so it
observe
has to be
the
public.
discussion.
well, I mean, I think it satisfies both the spirit and the letter of the law. If we publicize that we're meeting and we make it available on Zoom.
Yeah.
Which we will do. Okay,
That was moved.
Huh?
Yeah,
So we're-
go ahead.
Yeah, I guess, we could make a, should we move, do we meet on Thursday for budget,
Friday.
Friday rather,
Friday
at
for
9:30 for
workshop.
budget discussions.
Correct. Yep, I second it.
And that
You want
is
to
seconded and by Paul, any discussion? Okay, ready for a vote on that?
See here.
Connors,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yep.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes. I move that we schedule a budget public
You
hearing.
didn't say thank you.
What?
You should.
You're welcome.
To say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There.
I move that we schedule a public hearing for the budget for our next regular meeting on the 4th of November at 6 p.m.
Six or the regular 7 p.m.?
6 is our regular meeting time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm old.
Once upon a time it was 7, but now it's 6.
That's public hearing, you said?
Yeah. That's what I'm proposing. I moved it, and somebody
What
seconded it.
date did we say?
The
I
4th,
second it.
a regular meeting time.
For this-
So when does it need to be out? What
What?
date does the
We've got time.
budget, the budget,
Well, it
proposed budget
has to
need
be,
to be
I'm
out?
looking at that today, but I didn't.
I think it's like 30th or 31st,
10 days.
October?
huh?
Of October?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to have that budget hearing before the Thursday after the election.
Right, but we
which
need to
is-
have what the hearing is about.
Right, we gotta have the budget for people to look at in advance
On
of the
the
hearing, so the
31st.
sooner we get it,
Okay.
so the sooner we put something,
Right.
and if the board. I think, I remember now it's in the law, if the board fails to do a preliminary budget in time, the tentative budget becomes a proposal.
Right.
So we need to get our act together. But if we agree on Friday, what we wanna put to them, that's time, for to get public to look at it, and that could be the preliminary budget.
We're doing really good. We've had budget meetings
No,
right up into the beginning of November before, right up straight through. I
Yeah.
remember one on the night before Halloween.
And then, we can still adjust the budget after the 4th. If we have, public input or other information that would suggest that we ought to change it
right.
from whatever we come up with on Friday.
What's the date of the first of these meetings right now? Something is.
First of which
Friday.
meetings,
Friday at
Next thing.
9:30
right,
for the budget workshop.
That's.
right. And if we had to, we could meet again, but it's getting kind of close in
That's
terms of getting it to the public to see before the hearing.
Well, if we need to, we'll have to. I mean,
Right. Right. But I
Yeah, did we decide we're doing this in person or not?
we decided to do it in person. My preference is notwithstanding. So with that, I think, well, are there anything that the group would like to put on the agenda for the next regular meeting on the?
Hold on, if we voted, we haven't voted on this resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good catch. Ready for the vote?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is for for the public hearing. Connors,
yes,
Hanson,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
A question, doesn't a public hearing require 7 to 10 days advance public notice?
I don't think so. I think it's 5.
Okay, 5 would be count weekends?
Well, from now, plenty of time. We just scheduled it.
Hearings
No,
November,
prior to the
so-
meeting. 5 would be 35th.
Well, I mean, today's the 20,
October 21st.
today's the 21st.
So we have
We
10
have 2
days.
weeks.
Okay,
We have 10 days to get it out. Right?
Even if
Needs
it's
to get
10
it
days,
out on
still
the
have it.
31st,
Oh, right.
right?
Right.
We won't have it till
The
Friday.
day of the week is not.
We won't have it, well, we won't have the budget, but we scheduled the hearing today, which is plenty in advance, plenty far in advance for scheduling the public hearing. The hearing is scheduled for the 4th of November. Yeah, we can publish notice plenty far ahead, but, those are gonna say, but when you publish notice, it's supposed to have what it is that you're proposing to do. Yeah.
And so I think it's West Danby Water District meeting too.
That one we've got, they voted at the last meeting what to propose to us, and we have that, and Laura's essentially incorporated it into the budget, so we can talk about it and make sure we're all on board with what they're
I'm
proposing,
just looking at the calendar,
yeah,
so.
but I think we're okay that way,
6 p.m. for a public hearing.
yeah. So we can check and see whether it's 10 days or 5 days before the hearing date that we have to publish notice by, and we can probably delay until that appropriate moment.
Right.
You can't go more than, a few days too early anyway when you're publishing
Right,
notice.
right.
So that we have a budget that they can look at. Okay, come back to the question I just asked. Anything that you want specifically to bring up at the meeting on the 4th? Or should we just see? what's
Phone
all-
system?
All right. Yes, I made a note of that, but good point.
So we're saying that you're gonna, with this
We're
new
gonna
vote
have,
system, we're
more-
gonna have to get it in here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to revisit the ARPA issue and, how we are, and what we're gonna make our commitments to, because we have to do that pretty soon.
The annual cost is down. It would be lower than what's in the budget now.
For what?
Phone system. Yeah, I saw the,
It's cheaper than what we're doing now,
yeah,
cheaper than my
Oh, I
town.
thought she said it
Yeah.
was 1,500 more.
no,
No? Okay.
1,000 a month.
Oh, the trouble is,
$1,000 a
it's
year.
$1,500 less, but we have to upfront $6,000 of the phone. You have to buy the phones, so it's
the installation is separate, the monthly cost is down.
monthly cost is down, but the
Maybe we can sell them.
upfront cost, yeah, we're gonna do with the old one,
The cost is down enough to offset the overhead for the installation close.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, so with that, we have covered the agenda and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Is the budget a local
In fact,
law? Is it a 5 days newspaper notice
Yeah.
for these public hearings for local laws?
Why there are certain amounts when, based on the expenditures for the last few years.